2, 1. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. We're going to be talking about a couple things. First of all, the Supreme Court is speaking yet again. Currently, the Supreme Court has reversed the banning of bump stocks. For many of you who may not be aware, bump stocks are a device you can add to a firearm which uses the recoil of that firearm to actually give you a rapid rate of fire. It's not very accurate, but bump stocks do allow you to to actually acquire several rounds to be discharged with one single trigger pull. You're simply just holding the trigger down, and the bump stock uses the recoil from the firearm to bump it forward, thereby causing your finger to basically push the trigger again over and over again. Bump stocks were banned due to the Mandalay Bay mass casualty event. I believe the individual in the Mandalay Bay event rented a hotel room in the Mandalay Bay facility in Las Vegas, across the street from an active concert that was taking place, an outdoor concert. So you're talking about a whole host of soft targets out in the open, and he's elevated several stories up, removed the window to his hotel room where he had several long rifles. We're talking about the AR-15 that you hear about all the time, in conjunction with bump stocks. And he had literally an infinite amount of ammunition. And using those AR-15s in conjunction with bump stocks, he was able to strike, I believe he had about 500 wounded, and about 10% of those did not make it. I think almost 50 to 60 people died. I don't have the number correct specifically, rather. But nevertheless, the Supreme Court today has reversed the ban on bump stocks. So we're going to be talking about that. I believe Sotomayor, one of the dissenting liberals on the Supreme Court, has stated that ban, reversing that ban, will have deadly consequences. But we'll talk to you folks. Certainly want to hear a lot of my pro-Second Amendment. Definitely my beloved MAGA will probably favor, but I want to hear from your point of view. Do you believe the Supreme Court made the right decision in allowing bump stocks to remain legal? Do you believe it will lead to future loss of life? Let me know in the comments. Now, as you see, the live is titled, I am voting for the felon. This is becoming a more popular slogan now that President Trump indeed has 34 felony convictions. Many folks are posting memes. I believe they're selling merchandise, all saying I'm voting for the felon. What I want to ask you folks is it time, due to President Trump, that in America we start viewing felons in a positive light? In other words, are we now suggesting that becoming a felon is a good thing? Now, you got folks wearing t-shirts. Obviously, children, everybody has access to viewing these and even purchasing them. So what I want to ask now, straight out, is it time we start accepting that being a felon can be a good thing? Because as I just stated, President Trump is selling merchandise on this. Wow. So looking in the comments, well, one other statement I want to make real quick too, because the Supreme Court has yet to rule on this. They ruled that bump stocks bump stocks are now legal. But this next thing that's coming down the pipe is, can a person with a restraining order own a firearm? What say you? We're going to be talking about that. Do you believe that a restraining order, let's say, for instance, your spouse or your girlfriend, your boyfriend, has a restraining order taken out on you, do you believe that restraining order should prevent you from being able to own, purchase, or possess a firearm? Because that is the next ruling that is coming down the pipe from the Supreme Court. So we're going to be talking about banning bump stocks, owning a firearm while under a restraining order, and the love of felons. Wow. Nevertheless, you guys know how the program is ran. We don't block, ban, or censor anyone. It is MAGA friendly from day one. Always has been, always will be. You don't have to agree with anybody in the comment section. You certainly do not have to agree with the damn host. It's all about free speech here. So look it in the comments. To the people that have been mistreated by the system, it's far more relatable. Well, Sleepy, what does that say? Sleepy something guy. Do you realize just about all felons believe they've been mistreated by the system? That's why we're going to ask the question, is it time to start viewing felons in America in a more positive light? Everything that Trump, now that he is a felon, is complaining about can be heard from the majority of felons in America. Most felons think they're getting mistreated. That's not unique to Trump. So if we believe Trump is being mistreated, perhaps it's time we start viewing more felons positively under the possibility that they may be being mistreated as well. Look it in the comments. Why is your channel called Liberal if you're a Trump supporter? Follow the program. You should get your answer as the program continues on. Going straight to, we'll go straight to Flight 454, friend of the program. Good afternoon, Flight. Asking that question, should we start viewing felons in a more positive light? Good afternoon, Flight.
Well, that's something, when I first requested to get on here was when we were talking about people wanting to still vote for Donald Trump, even with the 34 felonies.
Right.
Most of us don't look at them as legitimate felonies. It's nothing that's ever been tried for a felony before. Alvin Bragg ran on the notion of going after and prosecuting Trump. Judge is obviously, we know he's very left-leaning, even a Biden supporter. And the county is 90% Democrat.
Okay.
I think I firmly, wholeheartedly believe this was a political prosecution. When it does come to felons, though, in the world, yes, I do think that they should be treated differently. If you're a felon, you're automatically just outcast, to society.
Well, let me ask you, because you mentioned Trump's judge, being a Biden supporter. You mentioned that the fact that the felons he has, no one has ever really been charged with before. Do you view Hunter Biden as the same? Because once again, Hunter Biden was charged with a felony that is a victimless crime. Most legal analysts say that no one has ever been charged with what Hunter Biden has been charged with as a standalone crime. In other words, he lied on the gun application. He didn't use the gun to commit any other crimes. He wasn't caught with the gun by police or anything. He had the gun in his possession for 11 days, and they charged him with a felony. Do you believe Hunter Biden has a similar complaint like Trump?
Yeah, I do. I think it was political prosecution still. That's what we're doing right now is we're opening a big can of worms, and there's no telling how bad it can get. I mean, it's going to be whoever's head of power, and right now it's two-party system, so it's going to be a lot of back and forth. And all this started originally with the witch hunts and Russian hoax, and then the impeachments, and it's getting out of control.
Now, you mentioned the judge in Trump's case running on a campaign of going after Trump. How do you feel about the fact we often bring up that Trump ran on a campaign of locking up his opponent, Hillary Clinton?
I never really agreed with that. I think the reason why I originally voted for him is because he wasn't the average norm. I'm not a fan of his rhetoric. I'm not. I am a conservative, but we know the system's crooked. We all do. The left, the right.
So what you're basically saying, what you're basically saying is the system is corrupt, but you're also admitting that Trump is probably part of that corrupt system.
I think less so than the others. He was a lesser of two evils for me.
He's lesser corrupt.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. That's why not Nikki Haley or Vivek or somebody? I mean,
I would love Vivek. I would love Vivek. Nikki Haley, no. I mean, her entire stance on retirement, Social Security, I'm completely out on that.
Yeah, but you're talking about raising the age of Social Security or retirement versus someone that you're admitting is at least a little corrupt.
Yes, but Nikki Haley's also, I mean, I think that she's a warmonger, personally. Yeah, the thing is with these candidates, we always have to sit back and look and see the good and the bad and try to, at this point, pick which one has the better attributes and better things for us personally, and that's how most of us vote.
Right.
And with Trump, my biggest thing with him is, like right now he's talking about not taxing tips, getting rid of federal payroll taxes. I own a small business, and a lot of employees don't realize how much businesses actually pay in to taxes.
Right.
On a scale on just their part. Yeah, it comes out of your check, but the businesses also have to pay taxes for having you employed, basically.
Now, I do ride share. I'm a ride share driver as, you know, a side source of income, and not taxing tips would affect me on a very little scale. Most ride share passengers don't really tip, but if we didn't get taxed on the tips, it might help a minuscule amount. However, not taxing the tips of folks who work in restaurants or bartenders, that's most of their salary. So if you don't tax them, because they only make, $2-3 an hour in a restaurant. All the rest of their income comes from tips. If you do not tax them, how is all that money going to be made up? How do we make that up?
Flat rate sales tax, I believe. 10% flat rate sales tax. Right now, we're currently getting taxed on everything we make and then everything we buy. And then sometimes, obviously state levels, we're constantly paying back in every year on the things we already own.
So you do believe it's possible to essentially allow just about all waitresses, bartenders to pay no taxes into the system at all, because their paychecks are very low in terms of how much they get from the actual establishment. Their income is almost all tips. So now these folks are actually working and paying virtually no taxes at all. You think we could handle that?
If we start getting our budget corrected in the House, right now, you have outside contractors charging renovation companies, charging the government $1,000 for a sink. We have too many people sticking their hand in the cookie jar, and we are spending way more money than what's necessary. We need to get to a system of checks and balances and figure out where all of our money is actually going. Our Social Security funds are, it's outrageous how much we pay in as workers. You, me, my mom, before she passed away, she paid in for 40 years. And she dies, and the government just keeps all that money, but it's still being used for other things. It's not staying in that fund, It's being allocated to sending money to overseas or to our military budget.
So do you think Trump would shrink the size of the military budget?
I think the military under Trump would be, the budget would be fairly high. It was whenever he was in office. But the checks and balances is what I'm worried about. And that's really why I want Vivek to run and make it. I would have been all in on him.
Yeah. I can understand that, but I do gotta say, the idea of letting waitresses and bartenders work and pay essentially no taxes, is that fair to the rest of us that have to pay taxes? Or are you going to make it so that most Americans that work don't pay any taxes? How do they get a pass?
Well, you also got to keep in mind, the waitresses and bartenders, they're not making a ton. They're not making a killing.
Do you know how many people could say the same phrase you just gave? I'm one of those guys. I'm not making a ton either.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is because we're talking about getting rid of payroll tax, right? And that's the first thing Trump started talking about. And now he's added on this whole thing on tips and wages as well. When we're talking about getting rid of payroll tax, that's going to help everyone substantially.
Yeah, but the waitresses and bartenders are going to be, for the most part, paying no taxes at all. Getting rid of payroll taxes is not going to give the same relief to the average working American.
This is true. I wouldn't know how they would structure it. And I get where you're coming from completely. It's definitely going to be you and I over here paying more taxes and the waitresses are paying nothing. I get it. I completely do. But that money is going to be pumped into the system. It's going to be spent. It's going to be generated in tax revenue instead.
Yeah. I'm just going to say, in my humble opinion, I think that's a promise that will not be kept. I mean, because you're going to have folks just like me. Just like when Biden wanted to alleviate student loan debt, and you had so many folks saying, well, I paid my debt off. Do I get any money back? And how unfair? Well, the same thing applies in this case. If you're going to forgive or better yet, you're going to eliminate tip taxes for folks who make most of their income off of tips, why don't all the rest of us who don't have the tipping option at our job get any tax benefits? I really think he's making a promise that's not going to be able to be kept because, as you're even admitting, it's kind of unfair to the working class.
It is, and where it would make it even as if he was able to do away with our federal payroll tax. Obviously, we're all going to still have state level.
Yeah.
But federal, it's going to be huge for individuals working, and it's also going to be huge for business owners. I'm a small business. I'm not a big, huge 500 employee company. I have 10 employees, and I paid last year alone $50,000 out of my bank account to just have employees, and that was at the federal level. So that's something I could hire another employee with those funds, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's good and bad to it, but when you think about tourism, for instance, there are areas in this country where restaurants make up a large portion of the tourist income for a particular area. If all of them are no longer paying taxes, that whole town or county may feel the effect of that. I mean, areas where there's a bunch of restaurants because all the tourists are coming in, or conventions, all of those folks that work in those places suddenly get a tax break on all of their tips. I just can't see that working.
It's still going to go into effect on state level. State level, they're still going to have to pay their taxes, so I don't think it's going to affect that area. If that area is generating lots of revenue and then they're getting tips, they're still going to get taxed, I believe, at the state level. Okay. I don't think you can just come in and say, nope, none at all, you know. State level is going to be who's going to be, I believe, providing infrastructure and stuff like that for that area.
Right. But it is a big benefit. We both agree with that. All right. Fair enough. I got to move it on. But last but not least, you think the bump stock ban being lifted is a good thing?
I think all accessories should be lifted, including suppressors. Too many in the house, and I'm a huge 2A guy. I own close to 100 pew-pews.
Wow.
And I have a suppressor. People think it's like the movies. They think it makes it make no sound at all. And for a standard rifle or a standard like AR, it makes it sound like a black cat popping off instead of being a really loud bang. All it is it helps your ears, keeps you from blowing your eardrums, and you don't have to wear ear protection.
When would you, other than during the range, when would you be using a firearm where you're really worried about the sound of it?
I use it for hunting. That way I don't have to keep earplugs in the whole time, and I can hear better around my surroundings. When you have earplugs in, I even have the electronic ones that have mics in them, and you can't hear everything very well. So I hunt deer and hogs and coyotes. You want to be able to hear things moving through the grass or the trees.
Well, when you say you want to be able to hear things, what about police? Let's say the police are at a domestic or whatever the case may be, and someone means them harm and starts firing shots off at them, but because they're using a suppressor, could that change how the cops judge what's being shot or how they're being attacked? I mean, for it, like you just said, an AR suddenly sounds like a totally different weapon. Could that be a detriment to police at all?
No, I don't think so. They're still going to hear it. It's going to sound like a 22 popping off instead
of
a
big difference if an assailant is firing an AR at you versus the 22, though, right?
I would think anything getting fired at me is good.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if somebody has a long rifle and they're taking shot, don't you want to know that versus a 22?
No, it's the 22 is the most deadly round in the U.S. right now. That's not really a thing. I mean, and the only bad thing I guess you could say where the movies do get it right is if you do put a suppressor on a 22, it makes no sound at all. But
wow. And you just said that, and you just said that's the most deadly round. So you're admitting that you can basically silence the most deadliest round.
It is.
Is that a good thing?
Right now, though, I mean, I had to wait 16 months, I think, to get my suppressor. I had to get a tax stamp. I had to put it in a trust just in case I pass away. It's not just have to be handed over to the ATF. It can belong to my trust, and then somebody in my trust can file for the tax stamp to actually own it again. But yes, it's.
I mean, you just stated that the 22 was the most deadliest round, and when I asked you about law enforcement, would it make any difference to law enforcement on what a suppressor does to what they hear? And you're saying it could silence.
That's something I didn't even think about.
You get it now, though, right?
But it will silence it. But we're also talking. I mean, the intent to want to do that, the money to buy one, all that. It's. I mean, there's a lot of variables there. That
if you could take out law enforcement without them knowing I think people would come up with the money. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, because when you look at what you could encounter if they catch you or kill you, it might be worth coming up with the money to silence your weapon. I do believe that might be a worthy investment for somebody on that side of the law.
Yeah, but that'll also, like I said, those are unknown variables. I don't think anyone's going to go even purchase a certain pew-pew just to be able to take out police. If they're in a situation where they're going to do it, they're going to use whatever tools they have at the time.
What about a mass casualty event? Like the one we're talking about, what caused the ban in the first place, the offing of 50 people at Mandalay Bay. Imagine if he was able to stand across the street with a silencer. How many more minutes he would have been able to fire if nobody could hear the shots?
They would have seen flashes still.
You can't muzzle that? You can't hide a flash?
No, I mean, when you're still gonna have a flash at the end of a suppressor. I've shot mine at close to dawn and still had a flash. You're still gonna have the flash there. And that's the thing is at the end of the day, it was just the tool he used. He could have went and stole a semi and drove through that crowd and done even more damage. It's the tool that he used, and he was just a deranged lunatic at the end of the day.
I gotta say, you're not driving through a crowd of concertgoers and killing 50, wounding 500 with a car. You think you can pull that off easier than what he did?
If you were in a semi and just got going, I'm just saying, it's a tool, a bomb.
All right. You know, there's a reason why there's a reason why it's far less people use semis than guns. Guns are way more effective.
I think it might be his thrill of doing it at the time too.
All right, Derek, is this our first time talking? Is our first time talking?
Yeah. No, actually, I think I've been up here once. I actually follow you. You're one of the only kind of left-leaning guys that I can actually have some civil discourse with. You seem to have a pretty open mind, and I've always liked your lives. So.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. Come on back anytime. I do got to move it on, but Derek, thank you for that. Appreciate you coming through. You. All right, moving the program on. Using a semi. Wow. And he's not the only one that would suggest, listen, if you ban guns, they'll find another way to do it. But even though I carry, I'm not any firearm aficionado. I'm not going to pretend like I have a hell of a lot of knowledge on it. I simply do it for self-defense. I didn't know a suppressor could completely silence a 22 round. I did not know that. Me and my last caller may disagree on that one because I think that certainly would open up the door to some folks who are on the other side of the law. I mean, just think about it. Like I mentioned, the guy in Mandalay Bay. I mean, he did not mind firing a whole bunch of rounds out of the window. If people couldn't hear that, they're faced towards the act on stage at that concert. Because he mentioned when they would see the flash. Nobody's looking behind them up high for a flash. I mean, I would submit to you that guy could have did a hell of a lot more damage if he was able to use a firearm that had no sound. Because when you watch the videos of what's taking place, people screaming and things like that, you can clearly hear the firing going on in the background. Even when people they were running down the street and things, you could still hear them shooting. If you could not hear the shots, wow. Not to mention you don't know where to run because you don't know where the rounds are coming from if there's no audio. I would submit that would make the utilization of a firearm for evil a lot more successful. They don't even know where I'm shooting from. Isn't that what snipers tend to want? You know, not to give their location away. If you don't know where I'm shooting from, that has a lot of benefits to it. Not to mention it can help you escape a lot easier. Look at in the comments. We is magats. We want our bump stocks. Thank you, Daddy, Trump, and Supreme Court. We is stupid. Okay, I get it, Mr. Dark Knight. Love this live. More respect, more dialogue. Thank you, Mama Bear. Going back to the box. By the way, tap the screen. Helps out the algorithm. Starting out with 500 plus of you in here. Wanted to acknowledge my boy Gen Xer on YouTube with the super chat. Make it up not sending billions to the Ukraine. I don't think you're going to avoid sending money to the Ukraine at this point, even with Trump. Didn't Biden just make a promise to give the Ukraine like a $50 billion loan or something astronomical? Worthy of doing a show on, by the way, because when I heard about it, I was going to come and run it by you folks. But if Trump gets reelected, does he just break the promise to the Ukraine? I've said this before. Let's take Trump, Biden out of the picture before I go back to the box. When Trump got elected in 2016 and he broke the Iran deal that Obama made, the promise of that, a lot of folks, a lot of my beloved MAGA thought it was a good idea. Maybe the deal sucked. A lot of folks said the deal sucked. Maybe it did. But here's my issue. If you make a deal, your word is all you got. Why would anyone make a deal with the United States knowing that the next president might think it's stupid and just break it? So while folks believe that what Trump was doing was the best avenue to take because they believe the actual deal was bullshit, how does it make the reputation of America look? Because it's not just between America and Iran. Everybody else knew that Trump broke that deal that Obama made. So let's say it's time to make a deal with Libya or a deal with Canada or something. How do you respond when the leader of that nation says, how the hell do I know the deal I'm making with you, sir, is not going to be broken by your predecessor? In my opinion, what Trump did exposed us as being an untrustworthy nation. The next guy after you may just break the damn deal. So even if Trump was doing the right thing by, or better yet, if Trump was correct by saying the deal was bullshit, I believe we should have had to honor the deal. I don't believe in breaking. I mean, and we have a history of that, whether it's to the Native Americans, whether it was George H.W. telling the citizens of Iraq, if you stand up against Saddam, we'll help you, and then leaving them hanging, which is why his son had to go back, suggesting that, well, they're killing their own people. Yeah, because you guys told them to rise up, and now Saddam is slaughtering the ones who took your advice. I don't think it's a really good idea to just break your word willy-nilly. I just think it's a bad idea. But a lot of you folks have a different opinion. Oh my God, not this Democrat plant again. This guy is a Trump basher hired by Democrat operatives, says Barb Clark in caps on YouTube. But what As always, shout out to my female MAGA. You know, I always give a shout out to the Republican females because everybody says the women are going to go left because of abortion. But there's a lot of female MAGA. But let's tackle the comment. And it's in all caps, by the way. A Democrat plant. Shit. Where are all the Democrats that are paying me? Because she states I was hired by Democrat operatives. What the fuck is an operative? Does, Kamala show up with a badge, a gold badge? I work for. What is a Democrat operative? The guy is a Trump basher hired by Democrat operatives. I'm sitting in my fucking car. Who hired me? This ain't even a new car. Damn, I'm getting ripped off to be a Democrat operative. Thank you for your comment, though, Barb. Appreciate the input. Going back to the comments. That's your MAGA for you. Yeah, that's crazy. Democrat operative. Going straight back to the one and only Mood, Tuxedo Cat. Hired by a Democrat operative. What is that, Moon? Have you ever been approached by a Democrat operative?
You look like a Democrat operative, man. You look slick and you look shady. You look like a spy, man. I would totally believe that, man. I believe it right now.
It's the first I've ever heard. To get hired, I sure like to see how much I'm getting paid because I don't like what I'm earning right now.
You got a pretty fancy shirt on there, man. What is that, Nautica?
Yeah, a little something. So you're in the closet, threw it at me today.
You got some cash, man. That's all right. And you left me on scent, which is bullshit, right? You left me on scent. You didn't even read my messages. I didn't even get left on read chat. I got left on scent.
I fell asleep.
I sent you a bunch of DMs.
Oh yeah, when you were responding to me yesterday, I get so much correspondence. I fell asleep.
I know, man.
My fault.
Shit. I know.
So what do you
think?
Did
you like that article I sent you though?
Which one?
I sent you the age reversal study from Harvard and MIT.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it's in your DMs, man. Check that out.
All right. We'll do that. So what do you think? I'm voting for the Felon is the title of the live. Do you think that Trump is giving a new rise to America starting to have like an adoration of felons, starting to like the felons?
I think America is very unsympathetic towards felons and will continue to be so. But I also think you need to handle these things on a case-by-case basis, right? Because some felons legitimately want to reform and change their lives, and some remain pieces of garbage who will offend again. So these things are very nuanced, and you have to take them on a case-by-case basis, right? You can't just blanket and say, well, every felon has become good or every felon is still bad. So you need to be able to have gray areas that you can sort through.
What about Trump? I'm hearing that this guy, at best, was dealing with misdemeanors, and they made felonies out of nothing.
Yeah, so he committed one of the most heinous crimes in all history, right? He tried to overthrow the government, and he got a bunch of fake electors together, and he tried to steal an election from another person. So, that's a huge deal, and I'm actually very disappointed in Willis's behavior because that was actually one of the most important cases in history. And keep in mind, I don't care who she's doing it with. But, you're prosecuting the former president of the United States, right? And that's, even though I don't care who you're doing it with, that's a real bad look. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Yeah, she really ruined that. You're talking about Fonnie Willis. Yeah, the idea, because they're going to go into your background with a fine-tooth comb. And to give your lover a job on the case that everybody knows because that's what made them look into him is like, how the hell did he get such a prominent case? And boom.
I also think it was a bad idea for him to go on TV and give an interview too, because he didn't do well in that either.
No,
so, there was no point in doing that, But it is what it is at this point.
Any idea why they wouldn't just take Fonnie off the case the minute it started getting out of hand and put somebody else on?
Well, and this is why sometimes I don't appreciate politicians, right? Because they never give you a straight answer and they always say things like, well, I'm conflicted. Well, tell us why you're conflicted, right? Tell me what the confliction is and why the case can't continue. What exactly are you conflicted about? Because that's really not enough for me. But, again, it is what it is, I guess.
All right. So, somebody see in the comments, Hemi Lifestyle says Biden in 2025. Wow. So, at the end of the day, though, Do you think Trump will skate? I mean, folks, like I said, folks are saying I'm supporting the felon.
No, make no mistake. The show will go on, right? It may happen after the election at this point, but the show will go on, right?
Well, you've seen how much the Republican Party, even the ones that have an issue with Trump, generally come back and support the man. He has a lot of adoration.
Well, you understand that the Republican Party is full of white supremacists, fascists, and people with no backbone. So, yeah, you're going to get that. I mean, so the requirement to be in the Republican Party at this point is to kiss the ring, right? Damn. You have to kiss the ring. So that's mandatory at this point,
but
right?
Then,
you're a bunch of cucks, really.
A bunch of cucks, wow. But let me address what you're saying. If you believe that they come back to kiss the ring or whatever, you do realize Governor Kemp of Georgia is a Republican. So you said that even if Trump wins, the show will go on.
I'm not the guy that comes on here and attacks over that, right? I'm the guy that sticks to policy. I'm the guy that has receipts, my dude. I don't get into this mishmash of what party you're in, right? I'm assuming that these judges are fair and balanced, right? Now, the appearance is one thing, right? Like the judge in Florida seems like she's very in favor of Trump, right? She seems like she's really trying to...
Well, she's the Trump appointee. She has her job because Trump appointed her.
Yeah, but I don't need to get into all these things because I can attack the Republicans on policy and corruption alone. I don't need to get into all this nonsense, right? Like, I don't care about Hunter Biden, right? What I care more about than Hunter Biden, right, is that Matt Gaetz is accused of trafficking a 17-year-old. That, to me, matters more than Hunter Biden, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It matters more to me that you have people in Congress showing off penis pictures than actually writing legislation, right? That's what matters to me. It matters that you have insane senators out of Louisiana reading sex novels instead of doing their goddamn job, right? That's what matters to me. It's the fact that you listen to this orange turd and don't do anything about the border, even though it would do very little anyway. But you don't even pass anything because.
But here's what I think you didn't understand when I said, because you're talking about even if Trump gets reelected, the case in Georgia will go on anyway with Fani Willis. Let's say it does. The point I'm trying to make is this: most Republicans have come back and circled the wagons around Trump and are showing him love. The governor of Georgia, Governor Kemp, is a Republican. So it's possible that he could grant Trump a pardon, right?
I have no idea because I assume he could because it's a state level case. So I assume the governor could. You would have to wonder how it looks for a governor to pardon someone who tried to overthrow the federal government.
So do you think anybody cares about, I mean, you're talking about overthrowing the government. That looks bad. So do you think anybody cares about how it looks to pardon them?
Yeah, because this was the most important case they had, my dude. This is why, because most of the American public is only paying attention to things when it's in the spotlight, right? So the case isn't even ongoing right now. Now it's postponed indefinitely, last I heard. So most Americans aren't keeping up with this shit, right? They only know when it's on the news all the time because then they cover it all the time, right? So a lot of people may still not even know that Trump actually tried to steal the election.
Well, they don't believe that. They believe that Trump wanted to have a peaceful protest. He said go peacefully.
No. That's what MAGA believes, man. That's not what the other side believes at all, right? And MAGA doesn't make up the majority of America, which is why you'll always hear stupid lines like, we're a republic, not a democracy, because they don't like majority rule because they're not the majority, right? Which is why you gerrymander, which is why you won't get rid of the Electoral College, which is why you haven't won a popular vote since...
Do you want it? Wait. Do you think getting rid of the Electoral College would be a good thing, though?
Yeah, absolutely. Getting rid of the Electoral College would be fantastic because Republicans would never win a national election again.
Is that fair?
So it's not about fair, right? Our senators and things are made up of population. And right now, is it more fair? Yeah, it's more fair to have the population of America, the popular vote, picking the president than some rigged system that favors rural areas with low populations where the majority of Americans don't live, right? Because the reason Roe versus Wade got repealed is not because Donald Trump is popular and people like his policies. It's because you have a system that gives power to lesser populated areas of the countries where the dumbest most degenerate people in the country live.
Just wait a minute.
They're heavily religious, right? So they think that you're offing babies, and that women carry a baby for like 8 months and 10 minutes, and they're about to give birth, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, I don't want this anymore. They think that shit happens. Yeah. So you're talking about some of the dumbest people in the country who have way too much sway over our elections, my dude. Yes.
Have you ever been to a rural area? You said some pretty awful things about folks who live in rural areas.
I've been to Jacksonville, Florida, which is like one big, ugly rural area, man.
Jacksonville, Florida is your ideal of rural?
Florida is a shithole. It's a shithole city.
But you're referring to Jacksonville, Florida as an example of being rural?
Yeah, Jacksonville, Florida is full of religious nut jobs. It's the most widespread city as far as landmass, so things are very spread apart in between. They have shitty public transportation. The city looks ridiculous, and for some reason they play like animal noises in the center of the city late at night. I have no idea why they do that. It's really stupid as hell. But
I don't know where you get in this from. Let me go to
there for like 3 years when I was in the Navy, my dude.
Oh my God, I don't know about. I've been to Jacksonville, Florida. I didn't see any of what you're talking about. Supreme Court, bump stocks. What say you? Legalized it, basically.
So there is no justified argument that you need a bump stock for hunting or protection, right? Because if you're hunting, you're not going to be using a bump stock, because a bump stock would make your weapon less accurate, right? Because it bumps the trigger against your finger.
Right.
That's the whole point. So there's no justification there. You are protecting your home. I don't know how many people are raiding your home. I don't know who you've pissed off or what you've done to say that you need to protect yourself with a weapon that takes a bump stock, right? Unless you are a mobster or a gangster or something like that.
What if you got a bunch of, I hate to say this, but I'm going to play devil's advocate and go on the other side with this. What if you got a bunch of Black Lives Matter protesters trying to tear down your damn fence and get on your property, and you need to pop off a bunch of rounds in a society that has illegalized or criminalized
you should
automatics?
Call the police, right? If your first instinct is to commit a mass unaliving, instead of calling the police in that situation, I would say that you probably don't need a gun in the first place, right?
I want to run this by you. This came from Foster on YouTube, and it is kind of critical of your stance, but we believe in free speech. Foster says political opponents, descendants, prosecuted under Trump, 0. Political opponents and descendants prosecuted under Biden, 543, including Donald J. Trump. This caller loves incest, Obama, and AOC. Trump wouldn't have a chance if Biden wasn't so bad. What say you?
So what I would say about that is if Republicans weren't so bad at prosecuting people, you might be able to actually, lock someone up like you want to, right? Because you're terrible at finding evidence on Joe Biden, right? You haven't been able to do it, and now you're all mad and pissy about it, so you went after his son. Okay, whatever. I don't care about his son. Like, you guys think you're pissing off liberals by going after Hunter Biden? Most people don't care.
I don't think anybody cares about
Most people don't give a shit. You tried to go after Hillary Clinton, right? And with all the things you guys have said about her over the years, I was for sure that, you guys would come up with something. But unfortunately, Jim Jordan's a moron who watches children get abused and doesn't do anything, right? Yeah. And that's who you guys decided to send after her. He's an idiot, right? But that's what you guys like. And then what was the other one? Trey Gowdy, who's also a total moron. And between the two morons, you don't have half a brain, right? And they don't come up with anything. So what I would say is, instead of critiquing me, critique your party for being shit at their job.
I don't know. Some are going to say under Trump they favored the economy, weren't dealing with all these conflicts. You know what I always say.
That doesn't matter right now, because you asked, like, why are they coming after? Why are the Democrats able to come? So first of all, why would Joe Biden send a DOJ after his own son? That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard, right?
I concur.
So the DOJ is separated from the president. The DOJ may answer to the president, but they do their work separately from the president. They're separate entities. If you don't have it that way, then yeah, you would get political prosecutions, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I do gotta move it on, but I agree with you that if Biden was weaponizing the Department of Justice, his son would never, because this is a pretty, just like what folks are saying that they're bumping Trump's charges up to felonies. what Hunter Biden has got charged for some pretty lame ass shit as well. So
I mean, again, if I was Joe Biden, dude, and again, I've said this before, but he would win the election if he did this, man. What he needs to do is get on national TV and bring Obama in, right, into the Oval Office with him on national TV. They both need to put on a couple of bright blue F-MAGA hats, right? And then Joe Biden needs to look directly at the camera, smile, and sign his son's pardon on national TV.
Ooh.
Right in front of MAGA, and then he needs to hold it up to the camera and shake Obama's hand on national. He will win the election hands down if he does some shit like that. That would be gangster as fuck.
It is. It does sound kind of like fuck your feelings. I'll just say this. I don't know if that would help Biden win, but I do believe, just like with Trump, it would galvanize liberals behind him. That if he got on television with a fuck MAGA hat.
And that's what it's about, right? You need to excite your base, my dude. Go full dark Brandon on these fools and sign your son's pardon on national TV with Obama right there.
How do you respond to Ariel View in the comments that said that shit will start a war?
Good, bring it. Listen, I already told you guys, I don't want to be united with you. You are not my countrymen. All right? You're fake patriots. You're fake Americans. You're a bunch of fascists. I don't care what you do. I'm not scared of you guys, right? Talk your shit. Start your war. You haven't done it now, and you couldn't even take over the Capitol, and there were like no police there. Because you're just a bunch of fools, man.
All right, Moon. All right. You made it rough enough. Appreciate you coming on as always. Doors always open to you. You too. Wow. All right, moving the comments on. Yikes. Watch your communists. I don't quite get that. Hell yeah. And everybody's saying moo with triple caps. On YouTube, Commie Caller is unhinged. And I always say this, a lot of my YouTube audience leans right. A lot of my YouTube audience is MAGA. No problem with that at all. In fact, most of my audience used to be MAGA, but I do have more of a liberal following on TikTok. By the way, folks, tap the screen. 700 plus of you in here. Get the likes up to about 40,000. Yeah! Thank you for that hat and mustache. Stefan Allen, I do appreciate the support. Get the likes up on YouTube as well. Smash that like button. Make it happen to around about 30. You guys can do that. The top 3 dots on your screen will allow that to happen. Exactly how many people feel, David Moore on YouTube, what do you mean by that? Would you elect any more other random person from jail as your president? I'm assuming you're, Francis, in the comments, you're talking about Trump being a felon. Would you elect a felon as your president? Well, they do have the shirts now. I'm voting for a felon. MAGA are drawn to that hat like moths to a flame. Well, they believe this hat is a symbolization of a better America. After all, it's written right on the hat. Who wouldn't be drawn to a better America? Trump, Biden, who will it be? Either will start World War III. I think that's a pretty narcissistic to think that our election is going to start a war around the world. I mean, there is a lot more things going on this planet that doesn't pertain to America. I don't know. I mean, we do have a lot of pull on the planet, but I don't know if I would jump that far to it. Clinton Walston, friend of the program. Good afternoon, Clinton. We're talking about the love of felons. Clinton is a friend of the program. He definitely is MAGA. Welcome back to the program, Clinton.
Hey, brother.
Hey, good to have you back on. So what do you think? Felons are in now? Appreciate that. Mike the Sailor with the hot dog. Thank you. Are felons the in crowd now?
I mean, it just depends on what you done. I mean, if you go out here and you got like a murder charge or something, no. If you go out here and you've messed with dabbled drugs or something, which I've never would. I mean, but if you did and you got caught and you turned your life around, I mean, to me, that's a different deal.
Well, we're talking about a guy who just was charged, convicted, last week? I mean, we're not talking about somebody who turned their life around. This just happened. He ain't even been sentenced yet.
You talking about Hunter Biden?
Well, we can go with him too, but you don't see the liberals being pro-Biden, pro-Hunter because of the felonies. It's happening because of Trump.
Yeah, but I mean, that Hunter Biden, everybody knows that's a smoke screen to cover up Joe Biden's crooked dealing. I mean, come on.
Well, I'm going to ask you the same thing I ask everybody else. What is the evidence that is a smoke screen?
Well, the evidence is I mean, everything he had, his laptop. I mean, all right, look at it this way. You said yesterday, and this will come into your program today. You said yesterday that all the MAGA, the Republicans, all this stuff, that when it's not fair game, they want to gripe about it. Okay. What about Joe Biden? I mean, how many years are there between Donald Trump and Joe Biden? But he's too old to stand trial, but he craps in his pants on national TV and can't hold a sentence, shakes hands with ghosts, all kinds of crap. Yeah, the man might be mentally stable. Here's what kicks my butt. How do you change the rules in New York City in order to bring Donald Trump to justice for something everybody else is doing, even like the late night talk show host? And then here's Donald Trump with papers. Here is Joe Biden with papers, but Joe Biden walks and Donald Trump gets charged. How is that? I mean, that's what pisses me off. I mean, if you don't charge one, charge them both.
Let me respond. Yeah, I'll respond to your question. How does one get charged and the other one doesn't? We're talking about Prosecutor Hur. He's the one that stated that Biden is too frail or old or senile to be charged with a crime. One of the things folks are bringing up is that it's unfair, like you're doing. One thing they're not saying is that Hur is some kind of liberal or Democratic plant because he was appointed to office by Trump. So if this Republican appointee is saying that Biden is unstable, too old, too elderly, too senile to be charged, why are there not more Republicans going after him and going after Trump for appointing this guy? Because we know if he was appointed by Obama or some liberal, we'd be hammering the person that gave him the job, right?
I mean, I'll give you that, and you got to give me this. It seems like when Trump goes in front of and I'm MAGA. I'm for whatever makes this country better. Okay, here's what gets me. If Donald Trump appoints a judge, it seems like he walks. But there ain't nobody on this earth, unless you're just brainwashed, retarded, something, can sit here and say that it don't seem like New York and Fulton County, Georgia, and all these prosecutors, that's Democrats, is going after Trump for something that happened that every other politician has done. I
gotta let me read a comment first. I want to, because this was in it. And I will address your comment on crooked judges right away. But in regards to Foster talking about my last guest, Moo says Moo is a fascist and likely worships Marxists. Damn, I wish I had Moo on the phone. We are a constitutional republic. He is feral. I haven't heard that term in a while. He is feral and brainwashed. He's cheering for war and fascism. Mask off. Foster, we will continue that next time Moo is up. Thank you for your super chat and support. What'd you say?
You said that guy said Moo was there was a certain word used. What was that word?
Well, he said he's a fascist, worships Marxists, and he said we are a constitutional republic. He said he's feral. Like an animal.
I don't know about feral, but I will tell you he needs to be sterile.
Oh,
we don't need more like him.
God. A lot of people love food. Love Moo rather. What's wrong with Moo?
Moo, we live in America.
That is
your people, my people, the Indian people, the Hispanic, everybody has made this country good. We'll say that. Everybody's put their hand in. I mean, you can't sit here and say, as hard as you work, driving that van around, delivering, legal drugs to people and stuff, and what you do for a living to earn money on the side, whatever. And what I do to support my 3 kids as a single dad, and then they tell us to pull our bootstrings up tighter. Yeah, I like to pull my bootstrings up around something tight, but it won't be my damn boots. I mean, come on. America's sitting here with high gas, and everybody says, well, they don't have that problem. I mean, all the electric cars, the gas should come down. We all agree to that. Everybody says, no, Joe Biden, no. Well, damn, fucking drill. That's what Donald Trump done, drill. And then flood the market, and it lowers the price. That's common sense.
I want to agree with you, but I'll just say this. In regards to all the electric cars that should lower the price of gas, some would suggest that they are price gouging deliberately because the writing is on the wall that fossil fuels are going to be used significantly less as more alternative vehicles enter the market. So they're price gouging to make their money as a fourth quarter score.
I mean, I agree with you. That's just like, okay, well, y'all were talking. I'll get back on this, but before I forget it, because I'm forgetful. Just like y'all talked about, Donald Trump was wanting to drop down, federal tax off of waitresses and women and stuff.
Right.
Well, I'd like for him to drop the shit off my federal taxes.
Thank you.
Here's what people don't understand. When you go out to eat, it don't matter if it's McDonald's, if it's Hardee's, if it's Carl Jr.'s, what food is marked up 500 to 800%.
Damn.
It does not take, I didn't hire them people. Them restaurants hired them people.
Right.
They don't nobody give me a tip for standing there all day getting burnt 6,000 times a day, welding for 10 or 12 hours a day. Nobody gives me a tip. They're probably telling me to go here and eat yellow.
Well, let me tell you though, it's interesting you would say that because I'm sure now you go to fast food restaurants. Almost everywhere you go now, when you use your card, they're asking you, do you want a tip? Everywhere you go, damn near. Go to the gas station, the damn register is asking you, do you want to add a tip? So it may come a day when welders are receiving tips.
Well, I pulled up to, I can't remember, I think it was Taco Bell, and they asked me if I wanted to round my change up. Hell no, yeah. Do you want to lower your prices? You want to lower the damn receipt down? And here's what people don't understand. When you've got a restaurant and you hire that person as a waiter, it don't take rocket science to pick a damn plate up and a cup of tea and walk it and set it down. To me, that's not a trade. That is a job. It's not a trade. A trade is welding, construction, something you learn how to do with your hands and your mind to put something together. People don't realize, no offense to the teachers and stuff, I'm sure there's some good ones out there, but they if you look at schools nowadays, me and you are older fellas, I don't know your age, I'm nearly 50.
I got a couple years on you.
Our teachers taught, but these teachers these days, now they're worried about, oh God, it's going to come a storm cloud Monday, so we're going to go ahead and be out Tuesday and Wednesday. They don't work but like 4 or 5 days out of a year, and then I agree with you
100%. I am amazed at how easy a school can be shut down due to weather. I'm like, I walked to school in snow that was waist high when I was in 1st and 2nd grade. I'm like, you're shutting down because there might be snow, ice. I agree with you. The schools now err on an abundance of caution to levels we would have never dreamed of.
I sat there and watched the snow. We got stuck in like 18 inches of snow, got pulled out by a John Deere tractor because I live in a rural area.
Oh my God.
We went to school, and these kids these days, it's going to storm. Look out there, and there's one cloud the size of a gymnasium in the whole universe. We can't go to school. It's ridiculous. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. And now, like Alabama, all the teachers is put up down in Gulf Shores are having a meeting. My friend's wife is a teacher. They're down in Gulf Shores leaving it up on the taxpayers' dime, but they holler, we need a raise. Well, send my ass to Gulf Shores. I need a vacation.
All right, you've been hilarious today, Clint. Always good talking to you. Before I let you go, though, do you support allowing citizens to purchase bump stocks? You think they're lifting the ban is a good thing?
Well, I think this is America. Everybody to their own. If you're a criminal, you can't own it. If you're a good citizen, you should be able to. But your comment a while ago in a bump stock deal, that guy said silencers 22. The only reason 22 is the number one deadliest weapon in the country is because when the bullet goes in, it bounces around. It don't exit.
Right.
And that's the only reason.
But what about the notion that you could silence the sound of it?
Dude, you don't need a silencer. That's what I typed in your comments. You don't need a silencer. I know people who, and I'm not saying me because I'm a father. I can't afford tickets. But if 3 children, single father.
I already know what you mean when you say some shit like that before what you about to say. But go ahead.
Dude, all you got to do is take a Mountain Dew jug and duct tape it around the barrel. You can shoot a deer out the window and it makes no sound if little.
Take a Mountain.
What are they going to do? Continue to quit making Mountain Dew jugs? Come on.
All right, Clinton.
All the sound is in the bottle.
All right, good old Patriot.
Listen, I got knocked off your program the other day. I love you. You make pretty good sense on some things. Some things we don't see eye to eye, but you're a great man.
Thank you.
Hey,
you don't think I'm a Democratic operative getting paid by the Democratic Party?
It depends on if you're going to buy supper.
All right, I like it, Clinton. Appreciate it. Come on back anytime. All right.
Pretty good, brother.
You too. Move the program on. And Gen Xer says, before you know it, we'll be handing cops a tip for a ticket. Well, actually, if you hand them the tip, it might avoid you getting a ticket. There are some departments where if you've seen the movies where somebody get pulled over and, can I get your license? And he hand the guy the license and $100 bill as well. I mean, it does happen. It does happen. Women got it a little bit easier. Just unbutton a couple buttons and smile. Sometimes that works as well. So, it does work that way. Democracy elected a black president and will one day elect a woman president, Latino American president, or Asian president. This is the hidden anger. MAGA mission is to end democracy. Ooh, that came from Michael Rowe. You think MAGA's whole purpose is to end democracy? Wow. What would America be like if we were no longer a democracy or a republic for those who want to hear it that way? But what are you suggesting that America would become? MAGA wants to end democracy. I would sure like to hear you guys elaborate on that. Gen Xer says women can just hand the cops a sandwich. Oh my God. Gen X, are you and them damn sandwiches? I know Andy gonna come up here eventually, but moving the program on. Oh my God. And by the way, tap the screen. Get the likes on up to about 45,000. That would certainly be helpful for you folks on TikTok. Helps out the algorithm, brings in more MAGA. What do we say all day, every day? Program is MAGA friendly. Been that way since day one. Always will be. Always has been. Always is. Also, we don't block, ban, or censor anyone. We go left of Bernie Sanders to I'm having dinner with QAnon. When we say free speech, damn it, we mean it. You can criticize the host. You can criticize folks in the comments. Keep it civil, but we do believe in an uncensored program. Americans have gone soft. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men. That's a hell of a riddle. I could probably break it down, and it's interesting though. I like the way that's written. I don't know if I agree with all of it, but that's a mouthful. MAGA stands for Make America Great, like it was under Donald Trump. He proved what he stands for already and his ability to make our country thrive. The caller doesn't realize the Dems are Marxist Leninists after what is I can't think of his first name, but Lenin of the Soviet Union. Really, the way the government is set up, it's impossible to get rid of democracy or have a dictator like the Democrats say Trump wants. Yeah, but I'm not saying Trump is going to do this. But to counter your argument before we go back to the box, when you say that the way the government is set up, it's impossible. Well, if we're going to end democracy, they're going to change the way the damn government is set up. That's the first thing you go for, is you eliminate the resistance. And you can do that if you have enough people in the current government that supports your cause. So it's not like it's impossible. Understand that Germany in the 1930s was a democracy as well. Hitler didn't violently rise to power. He was voted in. And then he found a way to change the way the system is ran. I believe the current leader of Hungary has done the same thing. France is trying some new shit. I mean, this is how it works. You get in, and then you change. Vladimir Putin was voting in. Once he got in, he changed the constitution. They used to have a term limit for who was the leader of Russia. He has removed that. You don't think that MAGA, I'm talking MAGA in the White, let's take the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene. You don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene would be in favor if Trump wanted to extend his time in the White House past 2 terms? You think Marjorie Taylor Greene would resist that? She's a member of Congress. You think Matt Gaetz would vote no? It can be done here in the United States. You just have to find people that are favorable to your cause. Going back to the box, we'll go straight to Angel something. I don't know what I just hit there. Angel 24845. Good afternoon, Angel. Welcome to the program. Yes, she stands for Americas. She's showing dick pics on the House floor.
Yeah, that's fucking gross. Marjorie Taylor Greene is disgusting.
But do you believe she would support extending Trump's term if he wanted it
sure.
done.
For sure.
Yeah.
So the way that I see it, if this country were to stop being a democracy, which is 100% what they're aiming for with Project 2025, it is grotesque what they're trying to do. I truly believe that the way that they would go is exactly how Putin has done it. You create essentially a fascist dictatorship that uses theocracy to coerce and lie to people to then win them over to your cause, and you're winning over essentially the dumbest, most like smallest majority of the population to your side, and then amplifying their voices.
Well, so you do agree with me, though, because someone in the comments stated that the way our system is set up, you could never end democracy in this country. I believe strongly, as long as you got enough support, you could.
With enough support, you definitely
could. You could definitely do it.
Terrifying thought. It's happened in other countries, and it's scary. It's scary to think that this country could fall that easily into the hands of essentially a narcissistic orange, but it definitely could.
Well, do you see Trump himself as someone that is a threat to democracy?
Yeah, he is. He is 100% a threat to democracy in this country.
What makes you say that?
His rhetoric is very similar to other fascist rhetoric that we've seen, not just back in the 1930s and 40s, but also through other periods of great unrest, where you sort of appeal to the lesser base of man and try to divide essentially like the
give me some. Now you say his rhetoric is that, but give me some examples of his rhetoric that makes you make a statement like that, because that's pretty inflammatory. What has he said to make you state that?
So with his statements, especially statements like immigrants are poisoning the blood of America.
Yeah. He has said that.
That is very similar to statements made by Hitler about the Jewish population poisoning the blood of the German nation. It is a very scary road to walk down when you start bringing up that type of rhetoric. It's not where you want to head as a nation. As a nation, you should want everybody.
But do you believe President Biden is doing a good job in securing our border?
I mean, he tried a bipartisan bill. It was killed by Republicans. They tried it a second time. It was still killed by Republicans. He's trying the very same thing that Trump tried with an executive order. I don't know how far that's going to go. That might be deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court as well, just like it was for Trump. At the end of the day, these people have to stop sticking their heads in the sand and listen when we're telling them, hey, yeah, there's an issue, but it's very clearly your side that doesn't want to solve it because they want to keep campaigning on this.
Well, I want to read a comment to you that's aimed at you, but first I will say this. In regards to Biden and the border bill, the bipartisan border bill, many are going to blame him for the fact that he waited so damn long, at least from the executive action standpoint. What he just passed a few weeks ago, he could have passed that several years ago. He could have passed that in the beginning of his term. So some are going to say that he didn't take the border seriously until the border started becoming a problem for his campaign. I tend to kind of agree with that. But what I want to run by you is this. David Van Helden, I think it says on YouTube, says anybody who wants to run around talking about Hitler is not worth having a conversation with in the first place. Do you see any genuine parallels, Angel, to Trump and Hitler?
For sure. For sure. I mean, if he's using the same rhetoric, he, not too long ago, he reposted, or somebody in his campaign reposted something talking about Reichs and the Reich standing together. Yeah. And if you know where that rhetoric goes, it doesn't go anywhere particularly well. there is, racism is alive and well in the United States today, and it's sad. It's really sad.
But do you believe, you said racism is alive and well, do you believe Trump has anything to do with that?
Oh yeah, he's definitely emboldened some of the most disgusting people within our society to be open and gross about these sort of things. I mean, we have Republicans in government right now who are saying stuff like African Americans were better under Jim Crow. That's ludicrous.
Yeah. But how do you respond to President Trump himself stating that he has done more for African Americans than any president since Abraham Lincoln? That's a quote.
I mean, that is an outright lie. But he can say whatever he wants because he has freedom of speech.
Yeah,
but
that is true.
Lies can be easily called out. Now he can call it an alternative fact, like how he loves to, but it doesn't make it like an actual fact. During his presidency, there was just a rise in hate crimes. Like we can see it from like FBI statistics. We can see it from like reports that came out. During his presidency, it was really dangerous and turbulent for people of color in this country.
But people of color are supporting Trump more than most Republican candidates in the past. I mean, his numbers with blacks are better than the likes of Romney, McCain, Reagan. You don't see any, because that's what they're claiming. You don't see any of that?
I mean, I personally, I don't see it. I live in South Florida. The only people that I see here supporting Trump are maggots and Hispanics.
The only people you see supporting Trump are what?
Maggots and Hispanics.
What is a maggot?
I don't call them MAGA, man. I call them maggots.
Oh, man. You come with the little white worms that
feed to feast on the dead flesh of America and its dream.
God.
That's all they're hungry to do.
That feast on the dead flesh of America. Damn.
That's what they want to do. They want to kill this country.
Oh,
that's what they're hungry for. They want to take the basic founding principles that nobody is above the law and that nobody should be able to get away with whatever they want to, and saying, actually, the president should be able to get away with whatever.
But you're saying they want to kill it. You saying they want to kill the country. The hat says they want to make it great.
I don't think they want to make it great. I think they want to kill this country. If you're talking about installing a fascist dictator, you don't want to make this country great again.
Wow.
Because this country has just never, like there have been vast periods of inequality throughout the history of this country. The only time this country has ever been great, and the only people that it has ever been great for, has been white Americans.
All right. Angel, first time talking?
Yep.
Appreciate it. Don't be a stranger. Come on back through, man.
Definitely not. I love your lives, man.
Thank you. Same. Appreciate it. I'm glad you're here. All right, moving the program on. Wow. Feasting off the dead flesh of this country. A maggot. Yikes. I always wondered what folks meant when they added the T to MAGA. Wow. Looking in the comments, white Americans is, didn't Trump hold a rally in the Bronx a couple weeks ago? The Trump organization is claiming they had 100,000 in attendance. Now, many have disputed that by a lot, but nevertheless, the Trump administration and the Trump campaign is saying 100,000 folks attended that rally in the Bronx. Looking in the comments, those words on that hat is nothing but a distraction to their destruction. Ooh, my goodness. And Bianca Ventura, as I always say, I don't mind. I'm always about free speech. I don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their commentary. But Bianca Ventura, listen, if you want to go racial, because she just basically typed the N-word. That's it. Nothing else. Just the N-word. I will have to end up banning you for that kind of stuff. So I'll give you a pass. I don't give a damn about the commentary. I got thick skin, but I don't want you to get the whole damn program taken down because you want to say something racist. Demon rats have done nothing but lie about what they intend to do for the Americans and have a history of lying about and going back on what they said they do. I could probably present to you a host of things from legalizing gay marriage, tuition forgiveness, George Floyd. I wouldn't say that they lie about every damn thing. I do believe there's a lot of lying from politicians in general, but your comment, in other words, suggesting that Democrats have never kept a promise, I totally disagree with that. Trump said 4 days ago, I don't care about you. I just want your vote. January 6th, he sat there for 187 minutes. Yikes. While the White House was being a victim of insurrection, says Melanie J. 187 minutes. Well, a lot of folks believe it wasn't an insurrection, but that 187-minute pause is worthy of explanation. MAGA have zero facts. They just say stuff. Well, we'll go back to the box and we'll tackle that. One of the friends of the program, Big Rooster, good afternoon, welcome to the program. Well, wait a minute. Love watching you, very intelligent conversation. Appreciate that, Mendacino, thank you. Tim Johnson, good afternoon.
Hey, buddy, how you been? I talked to you about 3 weeks ago. I jumped on with you.
Okay, well, good to have you back on. So what do you think? Supreme Court striking down the bump stock ban that was actually instituted by Trump, I believe.
Listen, that's all right. That's everybody's right. If you want one, you should be able to get one. And going back from that to the silencer or suppressor, some of the guys was right on and some of it was kind of off, but
give me the off. Give me what was off.
Well, the fact that he said that the 22 makes zero noise. Well, it does make a little bit of noise, so it's not completely silent. It is low enough to where if you was 100 yards or so, you could probably barely hear it, but you would hear it.
Would it be loud enough that you'd recognize it was actual gunfire?
No, if you was in a crowd of people, 30 people talking and carrying on, you wouldn't hear it from 100 yards. But you can't, at 100 yards, a 22 is not really, it could probably still kill you, but after 100 yards, the ratio goes way down. It's not going to do that much damage.
So if I'm in so let's say, for instance, I want to perform a hit in a restaurant. So I know somebody sitting in a stall. Outside in the restaurant, they're playing, music over the speakers. People are eating, plates are clanking. I go in the bathroom to find my victim in the stall. Would the people outside hear what I'm doing in the bathroom?
No, not at all.
So this is actually a pretty good weapon for an assassination.
Oh, 100%. And you don't need a suppressor. I'll just say it like this. I know of somebody that orders.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Oil filter kit is the same thread that goes on the end of my AR.
Okay, wait.
Which in turn
your signal was breaking up. You said I'll just say it like this. Start over.
The suppressor, you don't need a suppressor. You can order, it's called an oil filter kit, and the adapter inside that will screw right onto the end of an AR, which in turn you can put a frame oil filter on that, shoot through it one time, and it does the exact same thing as a suppressor.
Wow. A frame oil filter.
So, yeah, Amazon sells the adapter. You can get the adapter. It's called for an oil filter, but it's clearly not.
God, we live in a crazy society.
Yeah, they can keep their suppressors. I think you should be able to own one just as much as you should like a magazine. There's evil in this world, and there's always going to be evil, and it don't matter if you start taking stuff away from people. Then when the bad guys that don't care to break the law come back, you're not going to have nothing to defend yourself with.
Well, let me respond. And by the way, there's no place like home. Thank you for that underwater graphic. Appreciate that. Thank you for your support. When you say that evil is always going to exist, any idea why that evil seems to be so much more effective in the United States than anywhere else?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
You think that people are having their kids go to school and not come home in most countries on the planet?
Yeah, I don't know about most countries, but I know there's certain areas that our crime rate to theirs is black and white. Like theirs is totally ridiculous.
Yeah, are any of the countries you're referring to first world countries?
Well, like Jamaica. Jamaica's crime rate's ridiculous.
Is Jamaica considered a first world country?
I don't know the answer to that.
No, I don't think they are. And that's what I'm saying, though, is that when we compare our crime rate, suggesting that, well, if you get rid of this, people will find another way, we generally have to bring up third world or developing countries to make a point.
Well, I mean, like in, I know of a lady that moved to Kuwait, from America to Kuwait, and it's a communist country, and their crime rates are very low. Like, you're not allowed to own a firearm. Of course, they still have knives and whatnot, so there is still crime, but the crime rate is 100% low.
What about a westernized country? A country that is along with our ideals. Are we the worst in terms of this stuff out of westernized countries?
I believe so.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? I mean, we are the only westernized country that allows the population to be as armed as they are. I mean, most other westernized countries do not allow free access to guns at the level we do in America.
Well, it's what started it was years ago when it was allowed. No, you can't. Once you allow something like that, and there's so many guns in circulation that they know of, not the ones that they don't know of. If you started to try to remove them all, then you're removing them and making it dangerous for people that should have them, that don't have them. Because, like I said, criminals, they don't care if you're allowed to have a bump stock or not. They're going to have a fully automatic weapon. So,
well, let me just say this, because what you're saying is what is a quite common statement. If you ban guns, a criminal would be to get a gun on the street and they don't follow the law. You do realize the chief supplier for criminals is law-abiding gun owners. The criminals are getting their guns from us. They're not making them. Most of them are not being printed or smuggled in. Law-abiding gun owners are the number one supplier to criminals. They're stealing them, finding them, or buying them from law-abiding Americans. We are their chief supplier.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So when they say if you ban guns, a criminal will always be to get one on the street, they eliminate or not tell you the fact is the street is getting all its guns from law-abiding gun owners.
Well, like I said, there's so many in circulation now. If you tried to remove them from people and you succeeded at it, there's still going to be millions of people having guns that's not registered.
Yeah, but so what is the answer? Do nothing?
I mean, if you did something, I think it would cause more damage than anything. Because the criminal, all they think about is get what they want, no matter what the consequences is. So if they know that this house is unarmed and they're armed, the crime rate's going to go through the roof.
Wait, you said criminals are going to prefer unarmed over armed.
Yeah, I mean, if they see a house then they know that's unarmed, and the criminal has a weapon, the crime rate's going to go crazy because they know they can go in there and take what they want.
Then why isn't that happening in other countries where they actually had guns? The government took the guns from the people. Why are there not a bunch of citizens going around and going into homes knowing the populace is unarmed? I lived in Australia, for instance. In 1996 in Australia, they had a mass shooting and they took people's guns away. That's not happening there. New Zealand lost their guns in 2015. That's not happening there. Norway lost their guns in the late 90s. That is not happening there either. Why would it happen in America?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I know. I would hope that they would make it harder to get a firearm, but then again, there's still going to be the people that can get several and still hand them out to people that don't need them. So what's the answer?
Well, I definitely disagree with the do nothing approach. In fact, as opposed to trying to do something, what we have continued to use as a solution is to add more guns to the mix. So when you say there's simply too many guns to do anything, it's because we keep trying to solve the problem by adding more guns. They're talking about giving teachers guns now.
So how do you go about just not producing any more guns across America? I mean, would that be a solution?
I do believe if you started limiting the output of guns and having gun laws, I do believe it would work. I know a lot of my folks on the right are going to think I'm a total idiot, but here's the way I look at it. The Second Amendment defends your right to own and bear arms. So if I was trying to limit gun ownership or take this under control and I was in charge, I wouldn't take away anybody's right to own a gun. What I would do is go after the producers of firearms so that the gun shops and things like that cannot continue adding more to the mix. So once no new guns are being sold, where now you got to print it, smuggle it, or whatever, you're not going to have a lot of new guns coming into the mix. Okay, we got 400 million in existence. So what do we do about the ones in existence? This is when buyback programs would actually be effective, because buyback programs do produce a lot of weapons. Go to any of the nation's pawn stores, pawn shops. You'll see what happens when you offer money for guns. People bring them in. Now that there's no new guns being added to the supply, you're dropping the amount of guns in America by millions every year. Not to mention the cops are taking guns from people too. The problem is right now, no matter how many guns you take off the street, they're constantly making new ones. So you got to turn off the faucet of new guns first.
Yeah, I think if you stop the production of any kind of firearm, the price as much as they can, because they're not going to be able to buy anymore, or
right,
sell this or that. So they're going to be. So I think that they help. Eventually, the guns only last so many years, or I don't know how that would work. I know that sounds crazy, but they have to try something to do something about the way our crime is. Because like I work out of town through the week, and some of the cities I go to, I just don't understand people. I'm not a real smart person, but man, they sure make me feel smart when I'm around some of these people.
And our society allows them people to own guns. That's the problem. I gotta move it on though, Tim. Your signal's going in and out. Appreciate
it, bro. It's good talking to you.
Hey, you too. Come on back anytime, man. Your signal was going in and out. Let me respond to a few comments I got, because listen, we're talking about guns, so my beloved Mag is going to, view me as a total fucking idiot on this. And I don't mind the criticism, but one of the pushbacks is, how the hell do you think buybacks are going to work? Or I'm not going to sell my gun. Fuck a buyback. That's why I would not take away the Second Amendment for folks who are enjoying their right to bear arms. So the idea that a buyback doesn't work is foolish. There are buybacks all over the country. Like I said, pawn shops pay money for guns. And look at a pawn shop that offers money for guns. They don't have any shortage of getting guns. If you offer cash for guns, you will get guns. Now, the strong pro-Second Amendment people, you're not going to sell your gun no matter what the fuck they offer you for it. I get it. But you're not going to live forever. Or perhaps your family, after your demise or after you've gotten old and senile, whatever the case may be, they may be hard up for money. They may need to pay rent and realize having 100 pews around the house when you can barely afford rent doesn't make sense when you can sell some of these for money. Eventually, the buyback will catch up. It just, the strong pro-Second Amendment supporters of today are going to sell their guns, but the gun's going to outlive you. Eventually, this isn't an overnight solution. This is something that takes time. But in a country with 400 plus million guns, more guns than people, what you're doing is you're lowering the population of firearms. There will always be guns in America. There always will be. Nevertheless, you got to keep in mind, the minute they stop producing new firearms, as my last caller was saying, the price of guns are going to go up because people aren't going to want to sell the ones they have, like when Obama got elected. The price of the AR tripled because they strongly believed he was going to take away assault rifles, AR-15s or whatever the case may be. The price tripled. Okay, fine. You still have your weapon. No one's taking away your right to own a gun, but now it's worth 3 times the price. You don't think the street is also going to feel the effect that the price of firearms has skyrocketed in price? Now it's going to be harder for the 15-year-old purse snatcher to get his hands on a gun because the gun costs more than the damn purses he's snatching. Right now, you can get a gun on the street for damn near nothing. But once you start making it appear as if they are under threat, they're going to skyrocket in price. Yeah, the mob may have a few of them, the folks who are higher up, but most of the crime is committed by the low ne'er-do-wells. They're not going to be able to get their hands on guns that cost hundreds of dollars a pop. And if they do, why don't I just sell the damn gun? It's worth more than the lick I'm about to hit. So I do believe eventually it would make a difference, but I know a lot of folks disagree with it. I just wanted to throw that out there. Going back to the comments, though, then why not go after the criminals and not take the stolen guns they have? Where does that happen? You go after the criminal and not take away the gun. Where does that happen in that? I don't think that makes sense. And I do agree with you, Ms. Mobetta. Guns make people feel empowered. I do agree with that. In America, we tend to believe the only thing holding this great nation together is a gun. If I am not allowed to carry a gun, my neighbor is going to come and rise up and try to rob me. My government is going to become tyrannical and take away my rights. Another nation is going to invade this great land and take us over. The only thing keeping us together is a gun. That is the mindset of Americans, is that if I don't have a gun, all hell's going to break loose. We do have a hell of a love for guns in this country. Most other nations don't talk like that. But in America, yeah, if you take away guns, people are going to come rob me. You know, the nation is going to become tyrannical. The government is not trustworthy. I need my gun to prevent the feds from coming in my house. And if I don't have my gun, I can't act out the great scenes of Red Dawn when Russia invades us. My gun is my savior. People believe that. Look at it in the comments. Shit, I feel untouchable with my dogs. Okay. Do you even know where America stands on the violent crimes charts? Maybe you should actually get some facts. We're not talking violent crimes. We're talking about guns. Guns. We're not talking about violent crimes. You're throwing all kinds of other shit in there. We're talking about people getting shot. Where does America stand on the people getting shot charts? That's what we're talking about. You're trying to add other things in there. Going back to the box. Den Cal, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Higher prices will also cause gun owners to think twice about where their 3,000 AR. Yeah, that's a good point. Hang on, Den Cal. That says, Shondell says, higher prices will also cause gun owners to think twice about where their $3,000 AR is at all times. Most of the criminal element, listen, we know you can go into somebody's car, somebody's house when they're not home, maybe their garage, and you can find weapons. I do agree with that comment. If weapons skyrocket in value, you no longer will have to be promoting people to own safes. They'll start carrying them on their own. Den Cal, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey, what am I getting wrong on this?
I think you're pretty much on point as far as the gun argument. I think a lot of people have never heard a rational type solution like you're trying to give them. And so some people are just resistant to any type
That's
of
what
change.
it is. Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's just the instant resistance. But yeah, I wouldn't take away anybody's Second Amendment rights. I'm just coming from the back end, closing out the spigot, because the Second Amendment doesn't protect folks who sell weapons in gun stores. It's about your right to own arms. It says nothing about the gun store.
Right. And you have a lot of people, the majority of people, even gun owners, think that we should have some decent laws as far as background checks. But you've got the lobby, the NRA, basically saying no, nothing. We not allowing any type of common sense, nothing.
Yeah.
Everybody should just be able to have anything, and it's just it's crazy. It's crazy that they feel this way about bump stops when it was their trusted leader, Mr. MAGA himself, who was the one who was in charge when they banned bump stops. He said, "Screw the NRA. You guys are scared to challenge them, but I am not. We need to get rid of those things." That's what he said.
Yeah, and that's what I got to say. I give the advantage in terms of the election to Trump, because Trump does have the benefit of not necessarily being always held accountable, even if he says things that are counter to his own party principles. Because you're right, not only did he ban bump stocks, but during that same speech that led to him banning bump stocks, he talked about taking away guns first and then giving people due process as a way to address the mentally ill. So he said it takes too long to go through court, so take away the guns first, then have due process. That's about as unconstitutional as they come. His side still has not really had much to say. And then you point out he's one of the only presidents in recent history to actually pass an anti-gun law in the banning of bump stocks. Yet, the right don't have a problem with it.
He literally said, "Let's take away their constitutional rights."
Yeah.
And they said nothing. They said nothing.
Yeah.
It was all good when he said it.
Yeah, Beto O'Rourke, when he said, "You're damn right, I'm going to take away your AR-15s," he has gotten more flack for saying something that he didn't do than Trump saying something and actually carrying it out. That is an anti-gun law, banning bump stocks, and the right has not really criticized them at all for it.
Yeah, well, that's what they do. I can't really understand it, because we watched a guy like McConnell get up there, and I'm not saying that he's a well-liked guy or whatever, but he got up there on the floor after January 6th, and he said Trump was responsible.
Yeah.
He got up there again after prior to his I think it was his second impeachment, and said, "Hey, we can, I believe he did it, but we're not going to address it here in the Senate. Let him be. He can be subpoenaed and indicted once he gets out." And so he's admitted that this guy actually committed the biggest sin I think a president could, which is to obstruct an election. And now, what was it, yesterday, the day before?
He shook his hand.
They shucking and jiving together.
But like I said, I got to give Trump credit towards the election, because Biden doesn't have that type of love and support, where you're right. The right is going to likely forgive Trump for anything that they may have had a problem with, like the bird brains and Ted Cruz's dad killed President Kennedy and Marco Rubio's shorthands. The left takes that shit personal. The right, for President Trump, will forgive him for saying or doing anything. So doesn't that give him the advantage coming November?
Well, I mean, that's like saying, you give Jim Jones the advantage or David Koresh the advantage because he was able to do this to people. No, he doesn't. I don't think he has. I look towards the people who give up, any of their moral compass, anything that they could stand on as far as, I don't know. It's just really strange to have people just say, "Look, I don't care. I'm voting for a felon. I don't care if he did it. None of this matters. Essay, I don't really care." It's just kind of hard for me to really fathom that we're going through this point in society.
Wow. I got to say, I wish I was Trump. It's got to be awesome to have that type To have that type of power where nothing you do, no matter what you do, people are going to say it's bullshit and it's made up. I got to say, that's nothing but love.
I mean, he said that in the deposition in front of the investigators when they said. So you said that you said that people can basically essay women and it's okay as long as you rich and famous. And he was like, yeah.
Well, you're getting the Mario Mano on YouTube says, clueless caller, certainly referring to you, says, we love Trump for America First policy. So maybe the policies that Trump was trying to implement are so great that it's worth overlooking some stuff.
Well, I mean, you can't just overlook everything. I mean, I guess you can. And they're showing us that they can overlook anything. It doesn't matter. I mean, but me, I'm a voter. And I live in Georgia. And what he did was directly try to come to my state and take my vote and nullify it. He tried to nullify my vote. They can say what they want to about everybody else was doing, the fake electors was doing everything on their own. He sent them people to my state to take my vote away and call me a cheater. That's what he did. And he did it in 7 other battleground states. He literally called us all cheaters and that he wanted to overturn my vote. So my vote doesn't matter. He asked my Secretary of State, he said, look, I just need 11,080, whatever he said. He asked that man on the phone to nullify my vote. They can say anything that they think Biden did. His son slid him some money out the back door, whatever. That's got none of that has to do or overtakes the understanding that he literally tried to steal my vote.
So you do believe Trump himself is an election cheat?
Of course. I mean, what they would be saying is that everybody around him was cheating. I mean, literally his secretary. I mean, his
chief of staff.
His chief of staff. All of the people around him were all cheating on his behalf, and he's just walking around trying to make America great. Is that what they said? Because if that's the case, he got to be the, dumbest person in the history of America to believe that everybody's running around cheating on his behalf and he don't know nothing. He's sitting there watching the whole. He watching the Senate. He's watching the House. Get overread on TV. Yeah. He does not say a word. What's the old saying they used to say? Who do you want? Who do you want in the White House to answer the phone at 2:00 in the morning? Yeah, they wanted to be somebody responsible that's going to respond quickly. He sat up there in the White House and watched those people almost get hung. And they can say what they want to about, they weren't going to really do nothing. They were inspired by a guy who they didn't even know walking down the street telling them to run up in the White House.
Talking about reps.
So if those same people were standing there and somebody screamed out, "Hang Mike Pence," you don't think they'd do that too?
It's a good point. I don't, listen, I'll say this, in regards to people's opinion differing on what happened on January 6th, whether it was an insurrection or whatever the hell it may be, or, how could they have an insurrection if nobody was armed, and all of these comments. There's no way in hell I believe that if they had got their hands on Nancy Pelosi or Elizabeth Warren or some of them folks, that they would not have been harmed, particularly Nancy Pelosi. If that crowd had got their hands on Nancy Pelosi, I feel fairly confident she would have been in danger. She would have faced bodily harm. But I understand the MAGA side believes they would have just protested and said, there's no way in hell I believe that. I do believe that keeping her safe probably saved her life.
And along with Mike Pence, because he actually tweeted out that he basically was saying Pence was a traitor.
Yeah.
So, yes, some of those people were enthusiastic enough to do it. And what a lot of people don't understand is, though, at that moment, and I believe with all my heart, is what Trump was waiting for, was to them to get hands on Pence to stop the counting And at that point, the country would have been in so much of an uproar, he would have been well within his rights to call for martial law.
Wow. So he used Pence as bait, basically.
And once that would have happened, he would have basically taken control of the country using the military, and it would have cut out anything Congress had to say, and he would have been able to do whatever he wanted. And for anybody who thinks he didn't want to maintain or stay in office, then they delusional.
Let me ask you something. Now, and a lot of folks in the comment section totally disagree with what you're saying, but I want to ask you this. Do you think Trump is the kind of guy that came up with a plan like that on his own?
No. I'm sure he was asking all types of people, anybody who would listen to him, to give me suggestions, because that's what he does all of the time. That's what he did on his TV show. He brought a bunch of people with differing opinions together. He listened to all of them, and he used the one that furthered his agenda, what he wanted to be done.
Yeah, I'm not saying he did, but here's the way I would view it. When he met with Vladimir Putin, he actually took the interpreter's notes away, so nobody knows whatever conversation took place. It's between them two gentlemen. Nobody knows what they talked about because Trump took the notes from the interpreter away. Same thing with Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un gave Trump a note, and Trump has never told us what's on that letter to this day. Now, I'm not saying he did this, but this is speculation of how it could have been done. I'm meeting with you who happen to be a dictator, particularly Putin, who took his country from a country where you had duly elected voters, or leaders rather. Putin was elected in office, and now he's changed the Constitution so that he can become president for the rest of his life. This would be the person to ask. Like, dude, I'm trying to get what you got. How did you do it? How did you get your country to go from voting you in to being in a position where you'll never leave office again? So in my humble opinion, if Trump was going to be a dictator, or any American president wanted to be a dictator, this would be the guy to talk to, because he is a living example of somebody who just did it very recently. I'm trying to get where you at. Tell me how to do it. We can make something work once this shit is over with, but tell me what needs to be done. I'm not saying Trump did it, but there's no way to say he didn't because he took the notes away. That's where you get the information from, in my opinion.
Exactly, and how could any citizen, even if you support him or not, be supportive of him having conversations that nobody knows about with the foreign dictator who is one of our biggest adversaries? Well, what do you have to talk to him about? That us, the Americans.
Well, there is some good. Trump talking to Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, there is some good that could come. I'm not saying it was totally wrong, because I'll give you an example. Right now, we have Russian warships stationed at Cuba, whatever you want to say. But Cuba has Russian warships, and people are all upset. When Obama was actually trying to maintain a friendly approach with Cuba back in his day, the Republicans were hammering him, saying that what he did was wrong, talking about how bad the Castros and things like that are. All of a sudden, once Trump started reaching out to really bad dictators, they had a different tune. But maybe if we didn't stop Obama from improving our relations with Cuba, we wouldn't be in this situation now. He was actually trying to basically recreate diplomatic relations with Cuba, and the Republicans went apeshit about it.
Right. That's what we call in the military and in government, we call that continuity of government. You don't ever want to come behind another leader and totally just go against what they're trying to do, especially if it's been constructive. But what Trump did was he came in, he destroyed that relationship. And now, look what we have. We got warships and nuclear-powered subs pulling in the port 90 miles off the coast. They will blame this on Biden and say it's because he's weak, but they're not going to talk about how that relationship was destroyed under Trump. And look, right now, we'd have had a bunch of Americans vacationing off the coast of Cuba. They'd have been on the beaches like they were starting to do, and we would not have had any of this from Russia. But he destroyed that relationship. So this is what we got. So it's these actions that people do. The same way they said it was cool for him to go and meet with Kim Jong-un. What was the final, like, just going to meet somebody means nothing. We had him isolated. So you bring this man onto the world stage, you let everybody see that he's this strong leader, he's meeting with the American, but what does he do? He's popping off missiles like fireworks. He never stopped. They're talking about denuclearization was the goal. He did not, that didn't slow it. I think he went faster.
All right, Dinkyo, I do got to move it on, but I do agree with you. So far, several years after Trump met with Kim Jong-un, there is nothing to show that America gained by that meeting. So I do agree with that part. He didn't get any treaties or any type of signed contracts out of it other than shaking Kim Jong-un's hand on North Korean soil, which may have made him look big and bad to a lot of his supporters. But in terms of something tangible for the American country, there was nothing that came out of that. But I got to move it on, Denkel. As always, appreciate you coming through.
All right, take it easy.
You too. All right, moving the program on. We're talking about the love of felons. We definitely want to talk about that one. Didn't fire another missile until Biden. That's actually not true. To Core 88, suggesting that once Trump met with Kim Jong-un, he didn't fire another missile until Trump. That's not true because we were holding shows on it. And folks started saying, well, he's firing missiles, but they're not intercontinental missiles. He was firing missiles. I think he went 6 months after meeting with Trump. The moment, what Kim Jong-un, he wanted the validation on the world stage. Trump gave it to him, fair enough. But once Trump started focusing on other things and Kim Jong-un wasn't getting the attention he wanted, he went right back to doing it. And then Trump was still in office when it happened. So I don't totally agree with your comment. North Korea stopped sending missiles at Japan, our allies. That didn't even happen for the entire span of Trump's term. North Korea was sending missiles towards Japan, over Japan, while Trump was still in office after meeting with Kim Jong-un. Once again, I tell you, we were having shows on it, and people were saying things like, but it's not the United States. But they're not intercontinental missiles. He went back to doing that like 6 months later. Oh my God, Trump was a peacekeeper who demanded peace and respect from foreign nations. He brought our POW remains home from North Korea and opened peace talks in North and South Korea. Let's say all of that is true, and he did bring some remains home. Let's say that's true, but at the end of the day, does he get a participation trophy? Because none of the stuff you're talking about was actually accomplished. I mean, you say he demanded peace. Any treaties? Any promises from any other country? You can demand whatever the hell you want. If you're not getting it, giving him accolades is a participation trophy. He didn't get peace from North Korea. He may have demanded it. They all demand it. There's nothing valuable to that. What is Biden's plans for the next 4 years? Well, my liberal audience is going to say to maintain democracy, which is pretty damn fucking big. What else do Biden? I think Biden's tuition forgiveness. I got to bring it up. I'm going to tell you this. The folks are like, well, who the hell you voting for? I would love Trump's economy. I would love the economy we had under Trump. I would love the lack of global affairs we had under Trump. I'm not saying Trump should get credit for all of that shit, but it was happening during his watch. So be it. There are parts of Trump's presidency I would love. If I could save on my grocery bill, save on the price of fuel, I'm going to tell you for a fact, Biden's promising tuition forgiveness. I got 3 college degrees. Only one of them are paid off completely. I'll be paying hundreds of dollars a month, could be for the rest of my natural life, on college loans I took out. I took them out. I signed for them. They are my responsibility. I'm not going to deny that at all. However, I have to admit, if Biden was able to forgive the debt that I'm in and give me universal health care, which is partially what he did with Obama, I don't think there's anything Trump could do to the economy that would save me as much money as doing those 2 things. I'm in my 50s now. I got prescriptions. I go for appointments. I always go for my fucking checks. I want to make sure I'm healthy. That stuff costs a fortune. And I have insurance. Every time I come home, I got a out-of-pocket cost, a copay, an incidental. If Biden gives me universal health care, the type that Obama wanted to give us, not this mix and match shit that had to come out because of Republican opposition. If Biden can give me true universal health care like they have in most westernized countries, and forgive, there is nothing Trump could do to the U.S. economy that would save me that much money, that would make that much difference for me financially. What am I supposed to do with that? $2 gas is not going to undo hundreds of dollars of loans being forgiven. It is what it is. I just want to point it out. If the bottom line is why you're voting, I got to look at it that way. Now, I see in the comments people saying free stuff and handouts. Look, if it's a handout, if you consider this free stuff, I can't deny it. But what am I supposed to say? I don't want anything free. I'd rather be in debt for life. I mean, the quality of my life would improve significantly if my tuition loans are forgiven. And I'm going to assume that applies to a lot of Americans, significantly. Hundreds of dollars per month that I have to pay for decades. $2 gas is not going to undo that. It's just not. Okay, yeah, I got Trump. I'm paying. Look, I'm being responsible. I'm paying my loans off. Gas is $2. I can't afford shit, though, because of these loans. Yeah, they my loans. I guess I got to be responsible until I fucking die. It's my fault. I hear it. I understand. But I'm just telling you, if I could get a commander-in-chief that would give me that financial relief, that is very enticing. I don't want to die in debt, but responsible. Yeah, he was broke his whole damn life, but hey, he didn't ask nobody for shit. I don't want that on my tombstone. I just don't. Look at it in the comments, though. You have to pay for it either way. It's not magic. To court, yeah, it is. Look, if Biden gives us tuition loan forgiveness, your point is what's going to raise up taxes. I don't make enough for my taxes to go up to the level of what I'm paying in student loans or what I'm paying on medical bills. Even if look, to some degree, for a lot of Americans, you could tax them at 60, 70%. And it would be better for them financially than taxing them at 20% and making them pay all of these bills that they can't afford. So it depends on your own personal financial situation. But healthcare, for instance, let's go back before Obama came along, when folks were saying we couldn't afford to give healthcare to the American population because it's too damn big. You could tax somebody at a whopping 70% of their income, and if they're truly sick, that remaining 30%, while their health care is being covered, would be a more advantageous position than giving them all the money they earn, because they can't pay those medical bills. I mean, there is some of this shit people just cannot pay. Like I said, my student loans, it could be decades. I'd rather get taxed an extra 10 or 15% to get that burden off my back. I honestly would rather that happen. I would be far better off financially to be taxed a bit more to get that huge financial burden off my back. That's my point. And I see in the comments, Dobie, what is that? Says Doobie is home, or Dobie is home. It says you took on that responsibility, Tim. 100% agree. 100% agree. Just like if I go jump in a fucking lake and I cannot swim, I would favor the guy who says, you fucked up, but I'm going to throw a life preserver in there, than the other guy who says, well, sorry, your ass need to drown. You should have knew not to jump in the water. I'm going to go with the guy offering me the life preserver. Is a life preserver free shit? Am I getting it after doing something dumb? Yeah. But without it, I'm going to drown. So who should I go to? The guy with the life preserver, or the guy telling me, hey, you fucked up, you deal with it? Where should I go? Just want to point that out. Look it in the comments. Finishing Trump's story about the boat and the shark. We are all drowning. Yeah. Sometimes free shit is your only way to salvation. That may be it. I mean, after all, if you're religious, aren't you expecting Jesus upon your demise to give you free shit? I mean, sometimes that is your only salvation, is free shit. Maybe you've gotten yourself in a situation that may be your fault, but you can't get out of it. So this is it. This is it. So it is what it is. Looking in the comments, though, all of the student loans that have been forgiven so far were loans already meant to be discharged. But the federal programs weren't processing anything for you. Yeah, but fact is, Joe Biden would go way beyond that if it wasn't for Republican resistance. Obama would have went way beyond that on universal health care if it wasn't for Republican resistance. I would submit to you the minimum wage would be significantly more if it wasn't for Republican resistance. I mean, there are reasons to vote Republican. I'm not going to say there's not, but these are points that are facts. So socialism is your answer, handsome. MAGA mission. Do I believe anything you do to help out an American is socialism? No, I don't. The stuff I'm talking about, if I asked you to name another capitalist country on this planet, chances are they do what I just stated that you call socialism. The entire Western world does a lot of this stuff that we call socialism. Is America the only capitalist country on earth? Because most westernized countries do this stuff. I think we talk about all the time. I'll go back to the box that I'm talking too fucking much. By the way, tap the screen, get me on up to 75,000. We still got 600 plus of you in here. But I think I say this all the time, the left throws around the word racism too often. If you're debating with a liberal, eventually somebody's going to call you a racist. It's just a word we use to demonize. The right does it with socialism. Everything the left proposes they don't like is socialism. Everybody on the left is a socialist. It's not true. It's not true. Hillary Clinton was a socialist. Everybody on the Democratic side is a socialist. This is not, if you had a country that is 100% based on capitalism, you wouldn't like it. Without socialist tenets to the country, in fact, there's no country on earth that tries it that way. I mean, you want to dial 911, and when the police show up, they itemize everything they did for you because that's how capitalism works. I don't think you'd want it that way. Going back to the box, though, we'll continue on with Cage. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. They are dumb. They are all those words. Oh my God. And then through federal taxes, blue states prop red ones up. That is true. Cage, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. If the box lets them in. Exactly free high school is socialism. Yeah. If you had a capitalist society, there would be no public schools. You'd have to pay to go there. I mean, all the teachers have to make a living. There would be no 911. You got to pay for police to show up. After all, they need money to make a living. Fire department, let your house burn down unless you can sign this check real quick before we turn the hose on. You wouldn't want a society where everything is based on capitalism. If you want to mail a letter, let's say you want to mail a letter to somebody who lives in a rural area. You want to mail a letter to somebody who lives in Alaska. In a capitalist society, the person that delivers that letter is going to charge you extra because we don't normally go that far up there. I mean, there's only 2 people in this town or 100 people in this town. We don't normally come here. So we got to charge you extra. But because the post office is also subsidized by the government, you can mail a letter anywhere in the United States for the same price. In a capitalist society, that would not be the case. If you lived in a rural area, it would cost you more to receive mail in packages because of where you live at. We don't come out here very often. As folks will say, it's your fault. You're the one that chose to live out here. That's how it would work. And I don't think most Americans would agree with it. You're taking stuff that already happens. Yeah, I don't understand where you're going with. Let me go back to the box. You guys have heard from me enough. Sam Myers, good afternoon. The box is playing games right now. I'm trying to bring folks up. Move to San Francisco or Portland. There are no liberal policies you're wanting. I think we all meet in the middle. Wait a minute. Move to San Francisco or Portland. They're pro-liberal policies you're wanting. I think we all need. Well, when it comes to criticizing the parties, it helps to point to pick the worst of each side. You hear Chicago often talked about in terms of crime. You hear Florida talked about on the right. There's a lot of really poor areas that are Republican. Republicans don't talk about, they pick up Florida or they talk about Texas, where the economies are great. I mean, it makes sense to use areas to help fit the narrative. You're talking about Portland and San Francisco. Boston is liberal. Boston is doing just fine. The economy, the people, the income, Boston is doing great. All liberals. You don't hear the right talking about Boston at all because it doesn't fit the narrative. You got to talk about the areas that are suffering. That way we can paint the entire liberal party as living like they do in San Francisco. But Boston is liberal, and they're doing fine. Going back to the box, what about Tennessee or Kentucky? Well, depends on where you're at in that, but Kentucky has a lot of poor areas. I think the eight of the poorest counties are in that state, or in Kentucky. Historically, the country has done better under Democrats long-term than Republicans. I would submit to you, it depends on what your definition of done better is. There are certain aspects of right-wing mindset, left-wing mindset. Second Amendment, for instance. Maybe some people believe that is, when you say done better, well, my gun rights were better under the right. I mean, it depends on what you're focusing on. But it could go either way. The box is problematic as hell today. Stick the ruler. Let's see if Stick comes up. Yeah, California, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York. Oh, great Democratic spots. Yeah. Depends on what you're looking at, though. You talk about New York, Philadelphia, these areas, you say great Democratic spots. You're probably talking about crime. You're damn sure ain't talking about wealth, because those areas are going to have more money concentrated in them, higher earners than most areas in the Republican parts of this country. So when you say that these areas suck, you probably are talking about crime. You're ignoring the fact that they're making good money in those areas. So it depends on what you're focusing on. Trump said the economy does better under Democrats. He did say that. Apparently, I'm going to have a hard time bringing the box up no matter what I do. Only gay blacks are Democrats. What the hell would make you say that? Obama's a gay black? Don't even answer that. I didn't want to know where you're going to go with that. Only gay blacks are Democrats. Wow. You couldn't pay me to live in a demo-rat city. Well, you probably don't like big urban areas. Because fact is, most big cities are Democrat. We've done a show on it before. Out of the top 50 largest cities in this nation, only 9 of them are Republican. Out of the top 50 biggest cities in America, only 9 are Republican. And you got to go to like the 15th city before you come across a town that's Republican based. Fact is, Republicans may not understand why this is, but if you're on the right side of the aisle, the party has a problem with diversity. As simple as that. Diverse populations avoid the Republican Party like the plague. Big cities are diverse. It's simple. Big cities are diverse. Any city that has a very diverse population is not likely to have a Republican leadership. You talk about crime and all that other stuff, but if the Democrats are running the damn city so bad, why the hell won't they vote a Republican in? What is it about the Republican Party that is so undesirable that even if the city is overran with crime and things like that, as folks suggest, they still keep going Democrat? That's something that the right should understand. Look in the comments. You looking at the camera or the kids to the right of you? There are no kids to the right of me. I got 2 cameras going. If I'm looking here, I'm looking on YouTube. If I'm looking here, I'm looking on TikTok. So there's 2 shows going on. I'm Native American, And Spanish. I don't quite get that. I support your transition. Thank you, Kane. Pride comes before the fall. What is all these gay people just... Let me go over here on TikTok. Going back to the box again. Don't know why we're having problems bringing people up. Let's try with Dustin Rankin. And I do appreciate you folks still tuning in, even though the box is problematic. Tim, why do people assume anyone with an American flag is a Trump supporter? Because well, not Trump, but the right is big on flags and symbols. Now the left, maybe the pride flag, but yeah, it generally is the right that flies the American flag all over the place. So I think there are plenty of liberals that fly the American flag, but overwhelmingly, if you see somebody, especially if it's on their car, big ass flag sticking out the back of their pickup truck, yeah, there's a real good chance you're looking at a Republican. Dustin, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
I can hear you.
How's it going today?
It's going good. It's going good. So what do you think? The Supreme Court striking down the ban on bump stocks.
That's a great day for the United States.
How so?
Well, the Second Amendment was made so that we could protect all the other amendments. The Second Amendment was not to be infringed, and so I kind of have what some in this chat and on this page might call a radical view, but I believe I should have access to all military-style weapons at my disposal.
So you believe if you wanted anthrax, you should be able to get it?
That's
a military bioweapon.
That's a military bioweapon. I said a military-issued weapon. Any military-issued weapons, if the military can have it, then I should be able to have it as well.
What about atomic?
That's not a military-issued weapon.
What do you mean by issued? I mean, if you're guarding
when you join the military, whatever guns they see fit to train you with, or whatever guns you get assigned, or however they assign you the weapon that you get, should be the right, not infringed, for every American.
So if you are a Navy captain and they assign, and the weapon they give you happens to be a nuclear sub, that's what you've been assigned. This is the ship you will take command of. This has been assigned to you. Do you believe you should have access to that?
No.
Okay. So there is a limit somewhere in there.
Here's what I'm saying. First of all, I believe the entire discussion around guns is based upon fear. Fear for the gun owners to be like, if you don't have this, the boogeyman will come get you and you will be robbed at every corner that you go to.
I agree.
The second side of it is the other side of this coin is, look at all these guns in the United States. If you don't do something about them, everybody is going to die.
I don't know about everybody, but you would admit that we have a hell of a lot of gun deaths in America compared to the rest of the free world, wouldn't you?
I would agree that there is a lot of suicide in the United States.
I'm not talking suicides, though. I'm talking about homicides, too.
Well, then what's the root of the issue for the homicides? Because it's not the gun. Because last time I checked, murder was illegal. Murder is banned.
Yeah, but you think that any way you murder somebody could equally be created with something other than a gun?
Sure.
How would you? So if I see,
let me give
you an example.
Sexual assault. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me give you an example. I'm driving down the block. I'm in a gang. Mm-hmm. I see 3 of my rivals sitting out on the porch. I happen to have a semi-auto on the back seat. I want to take them out sitting on the porch. Now, with the snap of a finger, the gun is taken away. What else could you put back there in the back seat that would allow me to get all 3 of them on the porch?
Well, you could do it with crossbows. You could do it with. You could do it with about anything. I mean, you think of it. I mean, you could get all 3 of them with a friggin' cannon.
A crossbow?
You can still buy.
Do they have semi-automatic crossbows? I mean, I need to take out 3 people. A crossbow?
Maybe. That's the problem. Is that the hypothetical is always extreme.
No, because the drive-by I just stated happens damn near every day. That's not extreme. Sure. That's a real scenario. If you got rid of firearms, I believe most drive-bys would not happen because you just made it clear using another alternative, a crossbow?
I don't know. Like, what other weapon could there be?
That's the point.
Now, okay then. So, when we sit on this side and we say Putin is dangerous, why is Putin dangerous? Because he invades countries and tries to take them over?
Okay.
Countries that don't have no guns? Countries that need weapons from the United States? So you're saying the alternative is let's get rid of all the guns. Let's hope nobody else like a Putin ever comes around, and that we should all just be trustworthy of the police and military, especially the police, because they have such a good reputation in the United States. We can all agree with that, right? No, we can't.
Well, Trump wants to get a police immunity. Steve, wait, hold on a second. Steve, all I can do this. Steve shows the program so much support. Man, thank you. This huge super chat. Thank you, Steve, on YouTube. Never says anything, by the way. If you got a point to make, you'll certainly give it first priority. But thank you, Steve. So you're talking about Putin. Wow. So you're talking about Putin, and you're saying, America
He invaded a country. This is what we're being told. He invaded a country for no reason.
Right.
He wanted to take it over. If we don't stop him by giving another country's citizens weapons, military-grade weapons, FYI, that Putin is going to take over.
But are we giving the citizens of Ukraine weapons? Or are we giving the military weapons?
Because their military men are dead.
Okay. They're acting as military. They're acting as military replacements. I see videos all the time of Ukrainians fighting with Russians. It's rarely women. So we're not just randomly giving the citizens of Ukraine weapons. It's men.
Okay. So you have a detailed itinerary of where all those weapons are going? Because we don't even know where the money is.
No, I don't have a detailed itinerary, but I do have a lot of footage of, hold on. I do have a lot of footage of Ukrainians either being killed by Russians or Russians being killed by Ukrainians fighting. It's almost never women involved.
Okay. So how many of those Ukrainians are felons? Where are their background checks?
I don't know about that.
No, they're not just committing murder in the streets. The same thing applies. It's all based in fear. If you own guns, you fear nothing. You know that? If you own guns, you really fear nothing.
I own a couple pew-pews, and I don't believe that at all. That's an illogical mindset to not fear anything. People with guns die. Cops die all the time, and they got guns.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And none of them are ever celebrated for it, except for the ones that were the bad guys.
What do you mean by that? I don't get that.
I got a phone call interrupted me. I had a phone call come in that interrupted me. I'm sorry. So my point is this. If the cops are going to get full immunity, if Donald Trump is really going to be the dictator, if he's going to really take over the United States, wouldn't that empower a liberal to be like, you know what? Maybe I should know what a firearm is. Semi-automatic, by the way.
No, they should know what. No, they should know what a ballot is. If what you're saying is true, a liberal believes that Trump is going to be a dictator or get a police immunity. By the way, the only reason people believe Trump's going to be a dictator and get police immunity because that's what he's saying. But if you do fear that stuff,
Not in satire.
Hey, listen, let me just say this. Hold on. Let me, in regards to the satire, I'm going to spread the wealth around, or Trayvon Martin could be my only son, or some of the stuff. Nobody's listening for satire. If you say you want to be a dictator, people going to take it seriously. Defund the police. Maybe that was satire. Beto O'Rourke, you damn right I'm going to take away AR-15. Maybe that was satire. That ain't how you look at it.
Joe Biden said it too.
Right.
I want them. I want those AR-15s.
Right. Well, and Trump said he wants to be a dictator. He said he's going to get police immunity. Okay.
But what we've seen in our history, long history of places like Chaz, was that a liberal-minded organization took over a city, and they proceeded to kill 4 people. No,
I don't think they didn't take over the whole city either, by the way.
No, they took over a chunk, And they held it for
They
a while.
took over
and
like
they started
no, that's
they started taking people out.
when you look at wait, hold on.
And they were shooting them.
I think you're incorrect. When you look at the size of the area,
It's Chaz. You guys don't remember Chaz?
yeah, you said they took over a huge chunk of the city.
Enough that it was blocked off from regular citizens.
Like 4 or 5 blocks out of a major metropolitan urban area. 4 or 5 little blocks.
They held it for 24 days.
4 or 5 blocks, not a major city like you're making it sound. You're blowing it up.
Okay. So that's why all these decisions shouldn't be based in fear. The Second Amendment has kept dictators out of this country. It has kept the regular citizen safe. It has kept the government in check. As a matter of fact, we left a whole country because we didn't want to be taxed without representation.
Mm-hmm.
So we came up with the First Amendment to be able to say what we want whenever we want to say it, and the Second Amendment backs it up. So we can say whatever we want. We can have these beautiful conversations on TikTok because of the First and Second Amendment.
So let me ask you this. You said this. You said basically our right to own guns makes the country safe, keeps the government in check, and gives us our First Amendment right to free speech. How do you respond to the fact that all of these freedoms exist in most of Western Europe and they don't have the gun?
Because they don't have free speech.
You're telling me they don't have free speech in the UK?
They do not have the Second Amendment. They don't even have the third, fourth, or fifth.
They
don't even have the right to habeas corpus.
You're telling me if you live in England, you don't have free speech?
Yes.
Explain, elaborate.
So in England, you can say things about the Queen that can get you arrested. You can say things about the monarch that will get you arrested. Now, how again, the law is only as strong as the person that enforces it, right? You can get a ticket for jaywalking. Most times you don't get a ticket for jaywalking. But you can, technically it's on the books, and it's it is on the books here in the United States.
Is that when I say, hold on.
Without due process or cause under the Patriot Act.
When I asked you about free speech in England, is that the only thing they can't do is say something bad about the Queen who just died? I mean, is that it? Like they don't have
about this government. Imagine living in a world where you couldn't say that Donald Trump is ... whatever you want to say about him.
Some would suggest we're headed to that now. I don't know if I haven't heard
because of the Second Amendment. That's what's so awesome. Is that Donald Trump could come into office and he could say, I'm taking over the United States, I'm going to be a dictator. You know who's going to stop him? The regular citizens of the United States.
Yeah, there's no way in the world I believe that. I believe
we did it without, hey, listen, they took over the United States Capitol without a gun, right? Not one gun. And we almost overthrow, like, quote unquote.
No, they didn't. Hold on. No, that's not true.
Government.
That's not true. The only reason
everybody thinks.
Okay, the only reason the United States Capitol was taken over is because the police stood down.
Let them in.
They didn't break any windows at all, huh? They just all got let in.
So when you say stood down and let them in, what's the difference in definition?
Well, if you break in my house and you got guns and I let you in, I'm standing down, ain't I?
Okay, so you let them in.
Yeah. Well,
but if they try to break into your house and you do have guns, guess who won't break into your house?
No, they can break in my house. They just may kill me on the way in. Having a gun don't guarantee you're going to stop the assault.
Tim, you're a better shot than you give yourself credit. I guarantee you, they are not making it past.
Well, let me just cover what you said though in regards to guns keeping us safe, government in check in the First Amendment. I disagree with you strongly on the free speech thing because I lived in Australia for 5 years personally. They don't have guns in that country, and they have free speech. The government is in check. I just disagree that guns, in other words, everybody else that don't have guns is falling apart, and because America has guns, we're better than everybody. I totally disagree with that.
Well, in Australia, during COVID, when you try to go outside and go for a run, would not the police come to your house or fly over your house or yell over the loudspeaker, hey, get back into your house, or you're outside your limits, or you can't go here, you can't go there.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. But then if let's use your COVID example where you can't go certain places because you don't have a good. How do you respond to the fact that in most of America's history, even though we had the Second Amendment since the 1700s, I personally could not go most places in this country. Certain neighborhoods, the cops would grab me up. The Second Amendment has been around in this country since day one. Women couldn't vote, same-sex marriages, the Native Americans, all of the oppression and mistreatment in this country, despite the Second Amendment being present the whole time. What do you mean that the Second Amendment prevents the government from becoming tyrannical? If I'm a slave, is that not a tyrannical government?
Yes, it was.
Right, with the Second Amendment.
Then you're very accurate to say that, like we did in the United States, overturned slavery, and we overturned.
But it wasn't by way of the gun. It wasn't by what gun. It
was by the way of the gun. There was a whole thing called a Civil War.
Hey, you're going to tell me the Civil Rights Act under Martin Luther King was done with guns too?
Yes.
How?
So the people fought against the government. Now, that was more peacefully in protest.
It was 100% peaceful. The African Americans gaining civil rights under Martin Luther King did not involve firearms to any significance at all. That was a peaceful protest that ended up being successful.
Yes.
Right.
And Republicans and Democrats both agreed that slavery and the acts should be passed, and they passed the laws.
Women got the right to vote in 1920. Nobody used a gun to make that happen.
Sure, I'm not saying you have to use guns to change laws.
So in other words, you can be free without a gun.
You can be free without a gun.
Okay, that's what we're saying.
But then you'll turn into Brazil. Have you ever been to Brazil?
No. What's so wrong with Brazil now?
So Brazil has a giant population of people, mega amounts of people. Most of the communities in Brazil have gated homes, not because they're wealthy, but because they're just regular, let's say middle class or lower to middle class. I've been in both areas where it's been extremely impoverished, like plastic walls and cardboard boxes and extreme poverty. Your sewer was in the streets. It was in a mud pile. All the way up to the richest parts of Brazil. Most places out there have gates around their houses, and they're told not to go talk to people that come to the gate. Why? Because it's usually a setup where somebody sits at the gate, grabs a person, holds them at gunpoint and says, give me all your stuff, open your gate. A truck will drive from across the street and come in and rob you blind right there. Why? Because you have no right to guns. None. I know missionaries in Brazil that can't, when they get in their car to leave, they have to drive away before they can buckle their seatbelts.
But why don't you?
Carjackings.
But why do we make all the comparisons to third world and developing countries? Brazil is not a first world country. Why are none of the comparisons made to Spain or France or in Norway? All of the first world countries that don't have firearms, why don't we make the comparison to them? Why we got to go to these countries where people are damn near starving to death?
Sure. Like, you can make the comparisons all day long to them or not. The point I'm trying to make is they are not as free as the United States.
I really, the issue I have is I think your reference to freedom is relative, because I got mentioned when a lot of countries around the world see the videos of how our police are treating people, they don't see us as free, Dustin. They don't see us as free at all. I tell some of my viewers, when I lived in Australia, I got pulled over by the cops once for speeding or whatever. I kept my hands at 10 and 2. I don't know who these people are. These are not Americans. I mean, they're white guys, but listen, they're not Americans. I kept my hands at 10 and 2. The guy asked me to step out of the car. I kept my hands inside. You know what the cop told me? Put your hands down. You're not in America. They know how bad cops treat. I mean, he actually told me that. Put your hands down. You're not in America. So they don't see us as free as you're suggesting.
What do I care about what an Australian thinks of me?
That's a whole different argument. That's a whole different argument. All right, I got to move it on, Dustin. Always a good conversation. Anytime, man. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
You too, you too. All right, moving the program on. But I will say that having lived abroad, having went abroad, and I haven't really went to too many developing or third world countries. I've been into Mexico. That's developing, I guess you'd say. I mean, I've been into Canada. I've been to New Zealand. These countries that don't have guns in the first world part of the planet, they're doing just fine in my opinion. Now, he mentioned COVID, Australia during the pandemic, which is a tiny period in the history of Australia. In my opinion, Australians are free. I mean, I didn't have a problem getting a job. I could walk down the street. In fact, the police in Australia don't have the kind of power, in my opinion, that the American police do. People actually speak back to police without fear of them getting the shit beat out of them like they do in this country. So I don't know if I agree that because Americans have guns, we're freer than anybody else. I think we focus on certain types of freedoms while ignoring others. For instance, we just legalized interracial marriage in America in 1960-something. 1964 or somewhere around there, legal interracial marriage became legal. That shit was legal in Western Europe back in World War I. We had American GIs in World War I fighting in Europe, fell in love with somebody, and had to stay over there because they couldn't even bring their wife back home. Is that freedom? Because it didn't exist here. We're still fighting to federally legalize marijuana. I just found out the other day. Now, I didn't know this shit because I've never even tried marijuana, but I just found this shit out. They had marijuana scheduled as, what is it, a Schedule 3, whatever it's called, but it was on the same par with heroin and fentanyl. Marijuana. Now, I've never tried any of them, but I damn for sure know marijuana is not that fucking dangerous. It was actually scheduled high, Schedule 1, somebody says. Yeah, it was scheduled higher than cocaine. Most of the free world don't do that. The freedom to smoke a joint has existed in other countries long before here. Prostitution is legal in a lot of other countries. So when you say America's free, it depends on what your definition of freedom is. Because there are a lot of other countries that have had freedoms long before we have. And by the way, they didn't use a gun to get them. The leaders of those nations just thought the person should be free to do this. Same with same-sex marriage. And I would have told my last caller, when Obama legalized gay marriage, nobody used a gun to get a gay community that freedom. It was just time the country realized this is bullshit. I do believe there's a place for being armed and protecting yourself, but I don't believe that without a gun, a country's going to become tyrannical, because there's too many examples on the planet where that hasn't happened. I think we just the way America was established, going all the way back to the colonialists, we have been a violent culture from day one. We were violent to the natives. Obviously, once slavery we were violent to them. We've been fairly violent to most immigrating populations, Polish, Germans, Italians that came to, we are a violent people. So we assume that, violence is the way of life. Everybody's going to be like us. It takes one to know one. It's not like that in a lot of other places. Everybody don't have violence on their mind all the time. But because we have conquered a lot of cultures, we've essentially been at war continuously since World War II. Most other countries ain't did that. So we're constantly in fear of somebody invading us or being prepared for, because that's what we do. It's like a guy that's on the street doing what he does, coming in the house, he closes the curtains, he makes sure the door, because he know what he's doing on the street. That's how we know what we're doing on the global stage. So we're always suspicious that somebody may come back and eventually get our ass, because we doing it. A lot of other countries that ain't involved in all of this shit don't live like that. because they're not on the global stage doing all kinds of shit. We are. Looking in the comments, Martin Gingrich. Only reason why I appreciate the Second Amendment is that I think it works as a deterrent from invasion and to protect my home and family. Thank you for the super chat, Martin. 2024, I gotta disagree. Maybe in 1924, 1824, but you as a citizen being armed in 2024, when they got intercontinental weaponry, drones, aircraft, things that can strike your house from 1,000 miles away, the Second Amendment ain't protecting you no more. I just strongly believe that. When we were in Iraq, they had plenty of weapons in Iraq. Yet they felt death from the skies because of what our drones could do. You can't do shit with a drone. No matter what you got on your closet shelf or in your basement, there's nothing you can do. So I don't know if I agree that the Second Amendment in modern times protects you like that. Thank you, Martin Gingrich, for that follow-up. I think a lot of folks believe that if America's invaded, it's going to be like the movie Red Dawn, where they're going to put folks on the ground where you can now use your weapons and take pot shots. They probably soften the damn land up so much that most of us will be gone. I mean, you know that in America, everybody has access to firearms. So I want you to turn that area into damn near a sheet of glass before we need to put anything on the ground. I mean, I want to see this whole town looking like Dresden, just on fire, before we put anything on the ground first. And that kind of eliminates that. I mean, that kind of, I don't think in modern times it's going to be a Red Dawn type invasion. I think most of the world knows that there's a ton of firearms in America. So you use every standoff weapon you got before you even think about that. Looking in the comment, Tim's America, way too big for anybody to take out even a big, large number of America. No, that's not true. Tim's, you saying America's way too big for anybody to take out even a big, large number of us. You don't need to take out the population. You take out the morale of the population. You take out the right people. You take out the communication sectors. There's a way to do it. I'm just going to tell you that. You don't need to take everybody out. You can take it down to the point where nobody trusts each other. Man is fighting against man. Limit communicate. You can make it hell. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, it can be done. It can be done. You see where my president has our troops at Miami just chilling. Fair enough. If they wanted to, they could take all of us out right now. Certainly, with Russia having 2,000 atomic weapons in their possession, you could do a lot of damage with that. Going back to the box, though, I've had a lot of problems with the box. I've been unable to bring folks up. I'll try it one more time. I just hit somebody random. D-Bag, good afternoon.
I don't think we have to worry about other countries. I think we would have to worry about ourselves. One major solar flare from the sun to wipe out our electrical grid would have all of us fighting each other.
Well,
for survival.
Right now, we've already had some suspicious takedowns of energy grids, so whole areas of the United States went without power, and the same thing with the cell phones, where there were, I think, T-Mobile and AT&T. That's how you do it.
How many people have addiction to their phones? How many people have addiction to the internet? How many people have addiction to running water, toilet, air conditioning? And if that all goes down, how many people are going to go actually mentally crazy and start killing each other?
Well, it is not just an addiction. I mean, for most Americans, if you get rid of their mobile device, they don't have a way to communicate at all.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We'd be fighting ourselves before we'd fight another country.
Right. So it can be done. You just have to make America become divided from within.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It could be a natural disaster. It wouldn't even have to be another country with EMPs or anything. I mean, it could be just a natural solar flare-up. That, how many times NASA's told us it's going to wipe, it's done damage to us?
Yeah, but man can't create a solar flare. I'm talking about something that man can do.
They can do EMPs.
Yeah.
And when Biden let that damn balloon run over all of America,
yeah,
how many EMPs could have been set off during that?
Yeah. That's what I'm talking
And
about.
now we got a Russian submarine that he ain't doing shit about.
Well, hold on. Now, I agree with you on the balloon. They should have shot that shit down. But the Russian subs, what do you want Biden to do about that?
Stationed out of Miami right now, and he says they're watching the hell out of it.
But what do you expect Biden to do about a Russian sub going to visit Cuba, which is a sovereign nation?
It's not off Cuba. There's some in Cuba. There's one off the coast of Miami right now. Like I said, I got a friend that's in the Navy stationed out of Florida that's watching this damn thing. It's going back and forth off the coast of Florida.
But what can you do? Once you're 12 nautical miles off the coast, you're in international waters. At 12 miles, you can hear all the television stations, radio communications.
Well, international waters, there's no laws. Why can't we go get it out of there? That's how China was able to create that new island, because there's a national waters. Now they got a military base that's closer.
Wait.
Being able to get to us.
What are you saying? Go out 12 miles and take the sub out?
Why not?
It's against international law.
Says who?
Says international law.
Well, I mean, the UN don't regulate us, do they?
Well, wait a minute. So you're going to basically start a war?
No, it's not a war. They've been approaching on us how many times, provoking, flying their ships off, their airplanes off Alaska. How many times they done that? Into Alaskan.
See, this is what I was talking about before you came on, about when you're doing things in the streets, you think everybody else is like you. Do you realize how many sovereign nations we have subs right outside of, or how many?
I agree.
So
we shouldn't be doing that either.
Right. We've done it to hundreds of people. So all of a sudden,
I agree with you, and that's our fault. I agree with you. Sometimes we need to keep our nose in our own ass.
Right. So now you want to, all of a sudden it happens to America, you want to go out there and get the sub. You realize how bad that makes us look?
No, I agree. You're not going to get no argument out of me on that. But I mean, with what happened with 9/11 and how badly it messed with us mentally, emotionally, financially, unstable our country, do we take another chance?
I have a problem with us saying we're going to do the 9/11, not let people get too close to our borders when we got ships in the Persian Gulf. We don't have no business over there. We all over the place. But somebody get close to us and now 9/11 comes up?
No, I agree. And I think that's part of the whole thing with the Ukraine thing, is because we were making them basically a stopgap base for us to keep Putin at bay with the UN.
Right. And that's what I said. Our entire existence has been based on violence and conquering folks. So anytime somebody get near us, we're believing that they think like us because of what we normally do. I mean,
you're right. We do think that way.
Yeah. Maybe that's the problem.
Country, once upon a time, China had 7 kingdoms. It was at war for thousands of years until the Qin Empire took it all and became the first emperors of China.
Well, maybe we're trying to be like that. Maybe that's the problem, is that we have the wrong mindset where we view everything as a potential enemy. A lot of other countries don't operate like that.
No, and I don't think we should be pushing our beliefs, our system on other countries. I think it's wrong.
Yeah.
Our way of life is not the same as other people's way of life, and vice versa. I think everybody should just accept for the way they live, and hey, if they do it in their territory, that's not for us to say or decide.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're going to get that with either one of the candidates for office now, and I feel more confident you're certainly not going to get it from Trump, because he definitely is a my way or the highway guy, but I don't think Biden's going to do it either.
No, and here's the thing, I'm 49, I don't know how old you are. I, as a child, watched Reagan. Do you remember Oliver North trials?
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll start there. The Oliver North trials with Bin Laden, giving weapons to him. Yeah. And then Bill Clinton came in, and Bush Sr. was trying to take the oil over there with Saddam Hussein. He couldn't finish that. Then his son took over and lied about weapons of mass destruction. And I mean, where does this end? We ain't had I'll say this, we haven't had a good Congress or president in my 49 years of life.
Well, the issue is we are capitalists and we've become accustomed to living a certain way in terms of finances. And the reason we live so well is because we are exploiting so many other countries. That's where the money is coming from. Is we're able to exploit people.
We ourselves under Bill Clinton. When I worked at Cessna Aircraft Company, I'm in air capital of the world. I was painting planes. When he signed that fucking NAFTA deal, all of our jobs left America, went overseas for that tax rate for outsourcing jobs, and we ain't got them back.
Yeah. Well, that's the only way, though, that you're going to have more harmony on the planet. Is we're probably going to have to get to a point where America does not have most of the shit. I mean, we do have a lot more than a lot of other people. I mean, and we don't.
I'm bitching about first world problems. Don't get me wrong. I understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm bitching about first world problems. We could have it a lot worse, like some other countries, like Puerto Rico.
Right.
Look what we've been doing to Puerto Rico forever. We've been fucking them off, not by taking them in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's our own fault.
Well, let me ask you. Biden has stated that he would consider making Puerto Rico a 51st state. They would have representation. They would get a Senate.
We got a base there. They've always vote. They vote in our elections. Why shouldn't they be?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think we're coming to some type of agreement here. I do agree that if you're going to, for the most part, have control of a nation, they should have some type of represent. I mean, they basically have taxation without representation. That type of an argument.
We just rebuilt their electrical grid down our tax dollars. Why in the fuck are they not part of our country?
No, maybe some people view them as others. You know how that works.
I have not met a Puerto Rican I ain't like yet, so I'll tell you that.
I like Puerto Rico too. I gotta move it on, no D-bag.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Anytime, appreciate it. I like that. I ain't met a Puerto Rican I didn't like. I like Puerto Rico. I've been to San Juan a couple times. I like it over there. Puerto Rico, my heart's devotion. I like it. DC and PR. Well, PR is a little different though. DC rather. Dominican Republic. I think most Americans are brainwashed. I agree with a lot of that. Certainly in the Second Amendment argument we've been having, a lot of that. I definitely think there's some of that there. Americans work less than any other culture. Real work comes from the company owners. I gotta totally disagree with that, coon dog. I think when you, like I said, I lived in Australia. I can tell you for a fact they get way more vacation days than we do. In America, you start a new gig, you get 1 week of vacation, maybe 2. A lot of jobs you got to work for years before you even get 3 weeks of vacation per year. In fact, I worked for the largest phone company in Australia called Telstra, their largest telecommunications company. And I had one of the individuals ask me, because she had lived in America. She's like, how is it that they can give you a job and you guys get 0 sick days? Are you not allowed to get sick? I had to try to explain how in America, a lot of jobs come with 0 sick days. That didn't make any sense to her at all because you get sick days. Like, how could you get a job where the employer says you essentially can't get sick? That's America. So, I definitely think when people talk about freedoms and shit like that, there are a lot of Americans who work at jobs. They get 0 sick days, 1 or 2, maybe 3 weeks vacation per year. You got to be damn near ready to retire at a lot of American jobs before you get up to 4 weeks vacation. I mean, so when you say Americans don't work as hard as other people, I got to totally disagree with you. I mean, a woman gets pregnant in most first world countries, they give her a lot more time off. I mean, you got women that come back to work barely before the stitches of a C-section has healed because they need to make money because the company ain't paying them shit. Americans work harder, in my opinion. We work harder than most of the free world. I mean, how many Americans got 2 jobs? A lot of Americans do. So I don't know what would make you suggest that Americans don't work as hard. And the crazy thing is, a lot of people keep saying, well, Americans are lazy. They don't. I'll tell you it is. When you look at the wages in America, how the minimum wage has not increased for years and years and years. Folks, but these kids don't want to work nowadays. You want somebody to work, pay them properly. The pay in this country has went down. It has not, even under the Trump administration. You want to talk about Biden and inflation? Even under the Trump administration, the wages have not kept up with inflation. So, the end result is people are not going to be eager to work. I mean, Would you put in the same effort at your job if year after year you were making less and less? It is what it is. So when folks don't act surprised that children nowadays don't seem to have the same work ethic as you and I may have back in the day, our money went further. We actually got paid more than they do now. I mean, I made $3.80 an hour back in the late 80s. Some, what is the minimum wage? 7 something now? Most places pay more than that, but fact is, the minimum wage has barely doubled in like 40 fucking years. You don't think that might hurt the work ethic at all? You think that even if you pay somebody like shit, they're going to still show up and give 110% on? I disagree. Looking in the comments, do you have a cell phone back end? I don't quite get that. You're speaking over one now. I think it's a social class thing in the U.S. Higher up, you get tons of vacation and sabbaticals. There is some of that too, yeah. But I mean, I do believe the way our system is set up, it's done in a way to reward the higher ups. Nevertheless, it is what it is. This your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. By the way, I've had a lot of problem with the box today. 1,300 hours, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Central is where you'll find us. Feel free to follow the program if civilized dialogue is something you prefer without the host block, banning, or censoring you. Had to do a little bit more dialogue today than normal. I normally like to let you guys speak, and we have a back and forth. Nevertheless, the box was problematic today. It's your boy Tim, though, the handsome liberal. Catch you later. Same for you folks on YouTube. By the way, thank you for all the support, particularly Steve. Need to find out who that is. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Biden's mentor is Robert Byrd, KKK member. A guy that died in 2013. That's Biden's mentor? He's dead 11 years ago. I gotta go. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow.